Three men just laughed in my face and refused to pay. I'm just a waitress. Nobody important. But something inside me snapped. That's what Lily Harper would tell herself later, standing in the middle of Magnolia Bistro with her hand shaking and her heart hammering against her ribs. She'd spent 30 years being invisible, 30 years letting people walk over her. But on this particular Tuesday afternoon, with three arrogant strangers smirking at her like she was nothing, something shifted. She didn't know that the next 10 minutes would change everything, or that the man about to walk through those doors would see her in a way no one ever had. If you want to see how a single moment of courage can transform a life, stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The lunch rush had finally died down. Lily Harper stood behind the server station, rolling silverware into cloth napkins with mechanical precision. Her fingers moved automatically. Fork, knife, spoon, roll, tuck, while her mind drifted somewhere else entirely. Anywhere else. The fluorescent light above her flickered occasionally, casting strange shadows across the polished counter, and she found herself counting the flickers. 12 in the last 5 minutes. It was the kind of useless information her brain latched onto when she wanted to avoid thinking about real things, like the fact that her feet were screaming, or that Mrs. Chen at table 7 had sent back her salmon twice, each time with a tighter smile and a sharper edge to her voice, or that she'd been working at Magnolia Bistro for 3 years and still felt like a ghost drifting between tables. "Lily?" Marcus called from the kitchen window, his voice cutting through her thoughts. "Table 12 needs water." She nodded, even though he wasn't looking, and reached for a pitcher. The cool glass felt good against her palm. Small comforts. That's what she'd learned to appreciate. The weight of a full pitcher, the brief moment of quiet between orders, the way the afternoon light slanted through the bistro's tall windows and made everything look softer than it was. Magnolia Bistro sat on the corner of 5th and Walnut, all exposed brick and Edison bulbs, and the kind of carefully curated vintage charm that made people feel sophisticated for eating there. Lily had never felt sophisticated in her life. She felt small. She felt like someone playing dress-up in her white button-down and black slacks, pretending to belong in a place where entrees cost $40 and people discussed wine pairings like they were solving world hunger. But it was a job. It paid her bills, barely. And it was better than the alternative, which was going back to her mother's house in Ohio and admitting that she'd failed at the whole making it on your own thing. She wove through the dining room with practiced efficiency, her shoulders hunched slightly forward in a posture she'd adopted years ago. Make yourself smaller, take up less space, don't draw attention. These were the rules she'd learned growing up with a father who yelled and a mother who disappeared into silence. The rules had followed her into adulthood, tattooed somewhere deep in her muscle memory. Table 12 was near the window, prime real estate in the Magnolia hierarchy. 3 men sat there, all sharp suits and expensive watches, the kind of people who expected excellent service and barely noticed the person providing it. Lily had served hundreds of tables just like this one. They blurred together after a while, faces and voices melting into a single entity she thought of as the customers. She approached with the water pitcher, eyes down. "Gentlemen," she said quietly, filling the first glass. "Can I get you anything else?" The man closest to her, dark hair, strong cologne, ring on every finger, didn't even glance up from his phone. "We're good." She filled the second glass. The man in the middle, older with silver threading through his hair, was laughing at something on his companion's screen. The third man, younger with a razor-sharp jawline and a smile that probably got him whatever he wanted, was leaning back in his chair like he owned the place. Maybe he did own places. Men like this often did. Lily finished pouring and stepped back. "I'll check on your entrees." No response. She might as well have been furniture. Back at the server station, she checked her watch. 2:40. Another hour and a half until her shift ended. Then home to her studio apartment where she'd heat up leftover pasta and watch cooking shows while pretending her life was temporary. A brief intermission before something better came along. Except nothing better ever came along. Not for people like her. "Lily, table 5 needs their check," Marcus called again. She grabbed the leather folio from the printer and delivered it with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Table 5. A young couple who'd spent the entire meal gazing at each other like they'd discovered something no one else in human history had ever experienced barely acknowledged her as they pulled out a credit card. Young love. She remembered that feeling, vaguely, like a dream she'd had once and couldn't quite recall upon waking. She was clearing table 9 when she noticed the men at 12 gesturing for their check. Finally. They'd been there for nearly 2 hours, ordering appetizers and entrees and dessert, 2 bottles of wine that cost more than her monthly grocery budget. Big spenders, the kind of table that should result in a decent tip if she was lucky. She printed their check and approached, setting the leather folio down gently beside the older man's elbow. "Whenever you're ready," she said. "No rush." The man with all the rings glanced at the folio but didn't open it. Instead, he exchanged a look with his companions, something passing between them, that made Lily's stomach tighten with unease. "Actually," he said, pushing the folio back toward her without looking at the total, "we're not paying." Lily blinked. "I'm sorry?" "You heard me." His smile was thin, amused. "We're not paying for this meal." Her brain stuttered, trying to process the words. This had to be a joke. Some kind of test, maybe, or a misunderstanding. I don't understand. Was there a problem with your food?" "No problem." The younger man leaned forward, elbows on the table. "Food was great. Service was adequate. We're just choosing not to pay." The older man chuckled, sipping the last of his wine. "Consider it feedback on your establishment's pricing structure." Lily's hands were suddenly trembling. She gripped the folio tighter, her knuckles going white. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. "Sir, You can't just—" "Can't." The ring-wearing man raised an eyebrow. "That's interesting, because from where I'm sitting, we absolutely can. What are you going to do about it, sweetheart?" The word hit her like a slap. Sweetheart. Condescending and dismissive, reducing her to something small and powerless, which, to be fair, was exactly what she was. What could she do? What power did a waitress have against 3 men who looked like they bought and sold companies before breakfast? But the bill was $847. With the wine, with the desserts, with everything they'd ordered, someone had to pay it, and if they didn't, her manager would take it out of her paycheck. She'd seen it happen to other servers. Policy, Derek would say, not meeting their eyes. You're responsible for your tables. $847. That was her rent. That was groceries for a month. That was the difference between barely surviving and going under completely. "Please," she said, hating how her voice shook. "You have to pay. I'll get in trouble if—" "Sounds like a you problem," the younger man said, standing up. His companions followed suit, all 3 of them gathering their phones and jackets with leisurely indifference. Lily's heart was racing now, panic flooding her system. She wanted to run, wanted to hide in the kitchen and let someone else handle this. Derek, Marcus, anyone with more authority, more confidence, more of whatever quality made people listen when you spoke. But her feet didn't move. Instead, she heard herself say, "Stop." It came out quieter than she'd intended, barely more than a whisper. The men didn't even pause. "I said stop." Louder this time. Still shaking, but louder. The ring-wearing man turned, his expression a mix of surprise and amusement. "Excuse me? You can't leave without paying." The words tumbled out in a rush, tripping over each other. It's theft. I'll call the police, or my manager, or—" "Your manager?" The older man laughed outright. "Please do. I'd love to explain to him why we're refusing to support a restaurant that charges $70 for a steak." "That's the price," Lily said, her voice still shaking but her feet planted now, positioned between the men and the door. "You saw the menu. You ordered anyway. You can't just— Can't. The younger man stepped closer, invading her space in a way that made her instinctively step back. "You keep using that word. I don't think you understand who you're talking to. I don't care who you are." The lie burned on her tongue. She cared very much. These men scared her. Their confidence, their casual cruelty, the way they looked at her like she was an insect they could crush without consequence, all of it terrified her. But beneath the fear, something else was stirring. Something hot and sharp that felt suspiciously like anger. She'd spent her entire life swallowing anger, pushing it down, keeping it quiet, letting it ferment into something toxic and heavy in her gut. The anger at her father for making her feel worthless, at her mother for never protecting her, at every boyfriend who'd treated her like an afterthought, every friend who'd slowly drifted away, every boss who'd overlooked her for promotions. But mostly, she was angry at herself. For being small, for being quiet, for letting the world walk all over her and pretending it was fine. "You need to pay your bill," she said again, and this time her voice didn't shake quite as much. The men exchanged glances again, their amusement deepening. They weren't threatened. Why would they be? She was 120 pounds of anxiety in a uniform that had seen better days. She was nobody. Or what? The ring-wearing man asked, crossing his arms. "What exactly are you going to do, sweetheart?" There it was again. Sweetheart. Like she was a child throwing a tantrum over something that didn't matter. But it did matter. It mattered that they thought they could take whatever they wanted and leave destruction in their wake. It mattered that they saw service workers as disposable, interchangeable, less than human. It mattered that they were so comfortable in their power that they didn't even consider the consequences of their actions, because for them, there were no consequences. Men like this never faced consequences. "I'll call the owner," Lily heard herself say. The words surprised her as much as they surprised the men. She had no idea if that would actually help. Ethan Cole owned Magnolia Bistro, along with half a dozen other restaurants in the city, but she'd only met him once, briefly, during her initial training 3 years ago. He'd seemed distant, professional. The kind of man who existed in boardrooms and financial reports, not in the day-to-day chaos of keeping a restaurant running, but it was the only card she had left to play. "The owner?" The younger man laughed. "You think Ethan Cole gives a damn about you?" The casual use of the name startled her. They knew him. Of course they knew him. Men like this all knew each other, moved in the same circles, played the same games. "He'll care about theft," she said, with more confidence than she felt. "This isn't theft," the older man said, his patience clearly wearing thin. "This is a dispute over value. We don't believe the meal was worth what you're charging. Simple economics." "Simple economics doesn't let you eat food and leave without paying," Lily shot back, surprised by her own boldness. The ring-wearing man's smile vanished. "Watch your tone." "Watch yours," she said, and immediately regretted it. Her whole body was shaking now, adrenaline dumping into her bloodstream in waves. Flight or fight, and she'd somehow chosen fight, even though every instinct screamed at her to run. The restaurant had gone quiet. She could feel other diners watching, their conversations trailing off as they sensed the tension. A few servers had paused in their work, uncertain whether to intervene or stay out of it. No one came to help her. Of course, no one came to help her. Why would they? This was her table, her problem, her failure to manage difficult customers. "You're making a scene," the younger man said, his voice dropping to something dangerous. "Is that really how you want to play this?" "I'm not playing anything," Lily said. "I just want you to pay for your meal. And if we don't?" The ring-wearing man stepped closer again, and this time she didn't back down. She could smell his cologne, see the anger starting to flicker in his eyes. She was pushing him, these men, in a way that probably wasn't smart, but she couldn't stop now. Stopping meant admitting defeat, and defeat meant losing everything. "Then I call the police," she said. "No, you won't." His voice was certain, absolute. Because calling the police means making a formal report, which means paperwork, which means your manager gets involved, which means corporate gets involved. And trust me, corporate would much rather comp one meal than deal with the headache we could cause them. He wasn't wrong. Lily knew he wasn't wrong. The restaurant industry ran on a simple principle. The customer was always right, even when they were absolutely, demonstrably wrong, especially when they were rich. Rich customers could destroy a restaurant's reputation with a few well-placed reviews, a couple of phone calls to the right people. But still. "I don't care," she said, and realized with a start that she meant it. "You're going to pay." The older man sighed heavily. "This is getting tiresome. Young lady, I suggest you step aside before—" "Before what?" The question came out sharper than she'd intended. "Before you call my manager and get me fired? Fine, do it, but you're still not leaving without paying." She had no idea where these words were coming from. This wasn't her. Lily Harper didn't confront people. Lily Harper apologized when others bumped into her. Lily Harper made herself small and invisible and tried desperately not to cause problems. But maybe that was the issue. Maybe 30 years of making herself small had finally compressed her into something dense and explosive, and all it had taken was 3 arrogant men treating her like trash to make her crack. You're going to regret this, the younger man said, pulling out his phone. I'm calling Ethan right now. We'll see what he has to say about his employees harassing customers. Please do, Lily said, her heart hammering so hard she could feel it in her throat. Call him. I'll wait. The man's fingers moved across his screen, and Lily watched, a strange calm settling over her despite the terror coursing through her veins. This was it. This was the moment where she either got validated or destroyed, and there was no way to know which it would be until it happened. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Then a voice answered, too quiet for Lily to hear, and the younger man's expression shifted into something smug. Ethan, hey, sorry to bother you, but we've got a situation at Magnolia. He paused, listening. No, the food was excellent as always. It's one of your servers. She's being extremely rude, making accusations. Another pause. His eyes flicked to Lily, assessing. Table 12, some waitress, blonde, short, looks like a strong wind could knock her over. Lily's face burned. That's how he saw her, how everyone saw her probably. Weak, fragile, forgettable. Yeah, exactly. The man continued into the phone. Look, we just want to leave, but she's literally blocking the door, threatening to call the police over a simple billing dispute. He listened again, then smiled. Perfect. We'll wait. He ended the call and slipped his phone back into his pocket. Good news. The owner's on his way. Should be here in 15 minutes. The way he said it made it clear he expected this to work in their favor. Ethan Cole would arrive, apologize profusely for his server's behavior, comp the meal, probably fire Lily on the spot to demonstrate how seriously he took customer satisfaction. That's how these things usually went. Lily knew she should feel more afraid than she did. Her job was almost certainly about to evaporate. Her already precarious financial situation was about to get catastrophic. But instead of fear, she felt something else, something almost like relief. At least she'd stood up for herself, finally, even if it cost her everything. Fine, she said quietly. We'll wait. The men returned to their table, settling back into their chairs with the satisfied air of people who knew the system would work in their favor. It always did. The rich made the rules, and the rules protected the rich. Simple as that. Lily stayed standing, positioned near their table, her legs starting to ache from holding the same position for so long. Other servers were definitely watching now, their expressions ranging from sympathy to concern to the kind of morbid curiosity people showed at car accidents. Marcus poked his head out from the kitchen. Lily, you okay? She nodded, not trusting her voice. Derek's asking what's going on. Of course he was. Derek, her manager, who would absolutely throw her under the bus to save his own skin. Derek, who was probably already drafting her termination paperwork in his head. Tell him the owner's coming, Lily said. Marcus's eyebrows shot up. Ethan Cole? He's coming here? Apparently. Shit. Marcus disappeared back into the kitchen, probably to warn everyone to look busy and professional. The minutes crawled by. Lily's feet screamed in protest, but she didn't sit down, didn't move, just stood there like a sentinel, guarding her table, her stupid, pointless table that was about to cost her everything. The 3 men ignored her, scrolling through their phones and occasionally making comments to each other in voices too low for her to hear. They weren't worried. Why would they be worried? 5 minutes passed, then 10. The front door chimed. Lily's breath caught. But it wasn't Ethan Cole. Just a couple coming in for a late lunch, looking around uncertainly at the strange tension in the room. Another server rushed to seat them, and normal restaurant operations continued around the frozen tableau of Lily and her 3 wealthy antagonists. 12 minutes. The door chimed again. This time, Lily knew. She didn't know how she knew, but she did. Something in the way the air shifted, the way conversations dropped off, the way even the men at table 12 looked up from their phones with expressions that weren't quite as confident as before. Ethan Cole walked into Magnolia Bistro like he owned it, which, technically, he did. Lily had only seen him once before, but he was hard to forget. Tall, maybe 6'2", with dark hair that was probably expensively cut to look carelessly tousled. He wore a charcoal suit that fit him perfectly, and he moved with the kind of easy confidence that came from never having to question whether you belonged somewhere. But it was his eyes that caught her attention. Dark, sharp, taking in everything. They swept the restaurant, cataloging details before landing on the scene at table 12. Then they landed on her. Lily fought the urge to look away, to shrink, to disappear. Instead, she held his gaze, even as her heart threatened to break through her ribcage. Ethan's expression didn't change, but something flickered in those dark eyes. Assessment, maybe, or curiosity. He crossed the dining room in long strides, and Lily noticed for the first time that he wasn't alone. A man in his late 50s followed behind him, shorter, rounder, with the harried look of someone who spent his life putting out fires. "Gentlemen," Ethan said, his voice carrying easily across the room without being loud, "I understand there's a problem." The ring-wearing man stood, extending his hand. "Ethan, good to see you. Sorry to drag you down here, but your employee has been doing her job," Ethan interrupted smoothly, not taking the offered hand. "From what I understand." The man's hand dropped. "I'm not sure you have the full story." "Then enlighten me." Ethan's tone was polite, but there was steel underneath it. The older man cleared his throat. "We simply felt that the pricing at your establishment was unreasonable, given the quality of—" Stop." Ethan held up one hand. "Let me make sure I understand. You ordered from a menu with clearly listed prices, consumed the food and drink, and now refuse to pay." "We're disputing the value proposition," the younger man interjected. "Interesting." Ethan pulled out his phone, tapped the screen a few times. "Because I'm looking at your order right now, 2 bottles of the Chateau Margaux, which you specifically requested from our reserve list, the 2015. That's $400 a bottle, and you knew that when you ordered it." The men shifted uncomfortably. "You also ordered the Wagyu ribeye, the diver scallops, and the black truffle risotto, all premium items that are priced accordingly on the menu you were given." Ethan's voice remained calm, almost conversational. "So this isn't actually about value. This is about you deciding, after consuming $847 worth of food and wine, that you don't feel like paying. We have legitimate concerns about—" "No." The word cut through the air like a blade. "You don't. What you have is an inflated sense of entitlement and the belief that you can walk out on a bill because you're used to getting away with it." Lily stood frozen, watching this unfold with a kind of stunned disbelief. She'd expected Ethan Cole to side with the customers. Rich men always sided with other rich men. That was the rule. But here he was, calling them out in front of the entire restaurant. The ring-wearing man's face was reddening. "Ethan, we've known each other for years. I think there's been a misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding," Ethan said. "You attempted to defraud my restaurant, and more importantly, you disrespected my employee." His eyes flicked to Lily for just a second, something unreadable passing across his face. "That's not acceptable." "She was rude," the younger man protested. "Was she?" Ethan turned to Lily directly for the first time. "What happened?" Her voice came out smaller than she wanted. "They said they weren't going to pay. I told them they had to. They refused. So I said I'd call you." "And before that, were you rude to these gentlemen?" Lily thought about it honestly. Had she been rude? She'd been scared, shaking, barely able to get words out. But rude? "No, sir." "Did you provide good service?" I think so. I tried to." Ethan nodded, then turned back to the men. "So let me get this straight. She did her job, you decided not to pay, she stood up for herself in the restaurant, and somehow she's the problem here." "This is ridiculous," the older man sputtered. "We're valued customers." "You were," Ethan corrected. "Past tense. You're now permanently banned from this establishment and any of my other properties. My staff will send you a list." The shock on their faces was almost comical. "You can't—" the ring-wearing man started. "I absolutely can. It's my restaurant." Ethan's voice remained level, but there was no room for argument in it. "Now, you have 2 options. You can pay your bill in full, including a 20% gratuity for the server you attempted to cheat, or I can call the police and press charges for theft of services. Your choice. You have 60 seconds. The men looked at each other, their earlier confidence completely evaporated. The younger one pulled out his wallet with jerky, angry movements. "This is 45 seconds, Ethan said, checking his watch. The ring-wearing man grabbed the check folio, practically ripping it as he pulled out a credit card and threw it on the table. Fine, run it. Lily picked up the folio with shaking hands, her mind struggling to process what was happening. Was this real? Was Ethan Cole actually standing up for her? She walked to the server station on autopilot, ran the card, calculated the 20% gratuity that came to almost $170, her biggest tip ever by a factor of 5, and printed the receipt. When she returned, the men were standing, their body language radiating barely contained fury. The ring-wearing man signed the receipt without looking at her, his signature an angry slash across the paper. "Gentlemen," Ethan said as they turned to leave, "one more thing." They stopped. "Apologize to her." The silence stretched out, thick and uncomfortable. The entire restaurant was watching now, not even pretending to look away. "What?" the younger man asked. "You heard me. You disrespected this woman, treated her like she was beneath you, and attempted to leave her responsible for your bill. So apologize." "You can't be serious," the older man said. "I'm completely serious. Apologize, or the police call happens anyway. Credit card fraud is easier to prove than theft of services." Lily couldn't breathe. This was too much, too surreal. Men like this didn't apologize to women like her. It didn't happen. But Ethan Cole wasn't moving, wasn't backing down. Just standing there with his arms crossed, waiting. Finally, the ring-wearing man bit out, "Sorry." The word was barely audible, clearly coerced, but Ethan nodded. "Good enough. Now get out." They left quickly, their expensive shoes loud against the hardwood floor. And the moment the door closed behind them, the restaurant seemed to exhale collectively. Ethan turned to Lily. Up close, he was even more intimidating. Not because he seemed angry, but because of the intensity in his eyes. Like he actually saw her, really saw her, in a way that most people didn't. "Are you okay?" he asked. The question surprised her so much that she forgot to be scared. Yes? They didn't threaten you? Get physical?" "No, just they wouldn't pay. And I knew if they left, it would come out of my check. And I can't afford that, so I—" She trailed off, suddenly aware of how pathetic she sounded. But Ethan just nodded. "You did the right thing. Standing up to customers like that takes courage." Courage. The word felt wrong applied to her. She hadn't been courageous. She'd been desperate. "I thought you'd fire me," she admitted quietly. Something that might have been anger flashed across his face. "Why would I fire you for doing your job?" "Because," she gestured vaguely, "they're important, rich, connected, and I'm just—" "Don't," he interrupted. "Don't finish that sentence." She fell silent. Ethan looked around the restaurant, at all the eyes still watching them, then back to Lily. "Can we talk, privately?" Her stomach dropped. Okay. Here it came. The firing. He just wanted to handle it away from the floor, make it less of a scene. "Of course," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. She followed him to the small office in the back, the same one where Derek usually sat doing scheduling and inventory. The man who'd come in with Ethan, his assistant maybe, stayed outside, leaving them alone. Ethan closed the door and leaned against Derek's desk, studying her with those intense dark eyes. Lily stood by the door, her hands clasped in front of her, waiting for the axe to fall. "How long have you worked here?" he asked. 3 years, almost. "And in that time, has anything like this happened before?" She thought about it. "Not exactly like this, but customers getting angry, yes, being rude. Some of them think they can treat servers however they want. And how do you usually handle it?" "I apologize," she said honestly, "even when it's not my fault. I just apologize and try to make them happy." "Why?" The question caught her off guard. "Because that's the job? The customer is always right." "The customer is not always right," Ethan said firmly. "That's a bullshit corporate line that lets people abuse service workers. You understand that, right?" Lily didn't know how to respond. "Those men," Ethan continued, "they've pulled that stunt before. At other restaurants. They get off on it. The power trip of making someone like you feel helpless. And they get away with it because most establishments would rather comp a meal than deal with the confrontation." "Why didn't you?" The question slipped out before she could stop it. Ethan smiled slightly. "Because I don't reward bullies, and because you stood your ground when most people wouldn't have." He paused. That matters. Lily felt something hot building behind her eyes. She blinked rapidly, trying to keep the tears at bay. She would not cry in front of her boss. She would not. I've been reviewing the staff files, Ethan said, shifting topics. You've been Employee of the Month twice. Your customer satisfaction scores are consistently high. You're reliable, never late, barely ever call in sick. Do you like working here? The question seemed to come from nowhere. It's a job? That's not what I asked. Lily considered lying, giving the expected answer. But she was already in too deep, had already shown too much of herself. What did she have to lose now? It's fine, she said carefully. The money could be better. Some of the customers are difficult. But it's steady work. And the staff is mostly nice, and it's better than a lot of places I could be. Damning with faint praise, Ethan observed. I'm not trying to... It's okay. I'd rather have honesty than corporate cheerfulness. He crossed his arms. I'm going to be spending more time here over the next few months. The bistro's been underperforming, and I need to figure out why, which means I'll be around more, watching how things operate. Lily's heart sank. More oversight meant more pressure, more chances to screw up. As if reading her mind, Ethan added, That's not a threat. I'm not looking for excuses to fire people. I'm looking for ways to make this place better. And that includes making sure my staff are treated with respect by customers and management. He pushed off from the desk, moving closer. Lily resisted the urge to step back. What happened today? He said quietly. That took guts. I don't know many people who would have stood up to those guys. They're bullies who rely on intimidation, and you didn't back down. That's impressive. I was terrified, Lily admitted. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite it. He held her gaze. You should be proud of yourself. The tears she'd been fighting broke through. Just one, sliding down her cheek before she could wipe it away. Sorry, she muttered. I'm not usually this... It's been a hell of an afternoon, Ethan said gently. You're allowed to have feelings about it. Nobody had ever told her that before. You're allowed to have feelings like it was a permission she needed to grant herself. Take the rest of the day off, Ethan continued. Paid. You've earned it. I can finish my shift. I know you can, but you don't have to. Go home. Rest. Come back tomorrow if you want, or take a couple of days, your choice. Lily nodded, not trusting her voice. Ethan opened the door, gesturing for her to go ahead of him. As she passed, he added, And Lily, don't let anyone make you feel small again. You're worth more than that. She didn't know how to respond to that either, so she just nodded again and fled before the tears could really start. Outside, the sun was still shining. The afternoon was still bright. The world was exactly the same as it had been when she'd walked into work that morning, but somehow everything felt different. Lily Harper stood on the sidewalk outside Magnolia Bistro, her hands still shaking slightly, and allowed herself to feel something she hadn't felt in a very long time. Not happiness, exactly, not yet, but maybe something close to hope. The walk home felt longer than usual. Lily's studio apartment was only 6 blocks from Magnolia Bistro, a distance she normally covered in 12 minutes, but today her feet seemed to be moving through cement. Every step required conscious effort, like her body was finally registering the adrenaline crash after what had just happened. Her hands were still shaking. She shoved them into her jacket pockets, hunching her shoulders against a wind that wasn't really there. The spring afternoon was mild, pleasant even, but she felt cold straight through to her bones. Shock, probably. Or delayed panic, or maybe just the sudden absence of the anger that had been holding her upright for the past hour. A group of college students passed her on the sidewalk, laughing about something, and she had the strange urge to grab them and say, "You won't believe what just happened to me." But of course she didn't. She just kept walking, one foot in front of the other, until she reached the converted brownstone that housed her tiny one-room existence. The building manager, Mrs. Patterson, was watering plants in the lobby. She looked up as Lily entered, her expression shifting to concern. "You're home early, dear. Everything all right?" "Fine," Lily said automatically. "Just... slow day." Mrs. Patterson's eyes narrowed slightly. She was in her 70s and had raised 4 children, which apparently gave her a sixth sense for detecting bullshit, but she didn't push. "Well, you look exhausted. Get some rest." "I will. Thank you." The stairs to the 3rd floor felt like climbing Everest. Lily's legs were trembling by the time she reached her door, fumbled with her keys, and finally stumbled inside. The apartment was exactly as she'd left it that morning. Dishes in the sink, bed unmade, a stack of library books on the coffee table she'd been meaning to return for 2 weeks. The mundane normalcy of it all made her want to laugh or cry, or possibly both. Instead, she sat down on the edge of her bed and stared at her hands. They'd stopped shaking, finally, but she could still feel the leather of that check folio, the weight of it as she'd carried it back to those men. Could still hear the younger one's voice. "You think Ethan Cole gives a damn about you?" Except he had. Given a damn. Stood up for her in a way that still didn't feel real. Lily pulled out her phone and opened the group chat she had with the other Magnolia servers, a mix of college students, aspiring actors, and career hospitality workers who'd seen it all. 43 unread messages. She scrolled up to where it had started, right around the time Ethan Cole had walked through the door. Marcus. Holy shit. Marcus. Ethan Cole is here. Marcus. Like, here. Here? Sophia. Why? Marcus. Table 12, situation. Marcus. With Lily. Sophia. What happened? Marcus. Guys wouldn't pay. Lily called them out. They called Ethan. Jenna. Oh no, Jenna. Is she getting fired? Marcus. I don't think so. Marcus. He's going off on them. Marcus. Like I've never seen him like this. Sophia. What is happening? Marcus. He just banned them. Marcus. All his restaurants. Marcus. Made them apologize to Lily. Jenna. What? Marcus. I'm not kidding. Marcus. This is insane. Sophia. Where's Lily now? Marcus. Office with Ethan. Jenna. Oh God. Marcus. She just left. Marcus. Looked like she was crying. Sophia. Marcus, give us details. And it continued from there, speculation and gossip and questions Lily didn't have answers to. She closed the chat without responding. She'd deal with it tomorrow. Or never. Never seemed like a good option. Her phone buzzed with a new message. Not the group chat, a number she didn't recognize. Unknown. This is Ethan Cole. Marcus gave me your number. I hope that's okay. Lily stared at the screen. Her boss had her phone number. Her boss, who owned multiple restaurants and probably had better things to do than text waitresses, was texting her. Unknown. I wanted to make sure you got home safely and to reiterate that you did nothing wrong today. She should respond. That was the polite thing to do. But her fingers hovered over the keyboard, unable to form words that didn't sound stupid or desperate or overly grateful. Unknown. You don't have to respond. Just wanted you to know. Unknown. Take care of yourself, Lily. She saved his number, not because she'd ever actually use it, but because deleting a message from Ethan Cole felt somehow wrong, and set her phone face down on the nightstand. Then she lay back on her bed, still in her work clothes, and stared at the ceiling. The crack that ran from the light fixture to the corner window had always reminded her of a river on a map. She'd spent countless nights tracing its path, letting her mind wander to places she'd never been. Tonight, it just looked like a crack in old plaster that her landlord would never fix. Her phone buzzed again. The group chat, probably, still dissecting every moment of the afternoon's drama. She ignored it. Sleep seemed impossible, but exhaustion won out anyway. She drifted off sometime around 6, still dressed, still trying to process what standing up for herself actually meant. The next morning arrived too early and too bright. Lily woke to sunlight streaming through her window and a text from Derek, her manager, asking her to come in an hour before her shift. No explanation, just the request, which felt more like a command. Her stomach nodded immediately. This was it. The other shoe dropping. Ethan Cole had made a show of supporting her yesterday, but overnight someone had probably explained the reality of the situation, that those men had connections, that banning them created more problems than it solved, that Lily Harper wasn't worth the trouble. She showered and dressed mechanically, choosing her work uniform out of habit, even though part of her wondered if she'd be wearing it home for the last time. The walk to Magnolia took the usual 12 minutes. Muscle memory carried her through the door, past the hostess stand, empty this early, and toward the back office. Derek was waiting, along with someone Lily didn't recognize, A woman in her 40s, sharply dressed, with a kind of severe haircut that screamed corporate. "Lily, thanks for coming in early." Derek's smile didn't reach his eyes. "This is Patricia Mendez from HR." HR. Right, they were definitely firing her. "Please, sit," Patricia said, gesturing to a chair. Lily sat, her hands folded in her lap, waiting for the script to play out. The careful language about moving in a different direction, or not being the right fit, or whatever euphemism they'd chosen to make it sound like a mutual decision. But Patricia surprised her by pulling out a file folder and opening it to reveal commendation forms. "Ms. Harper, I've been reviewing your employment record this morning at Mr. Cole's request. 3 years of consistent performance, minimal complaints, high customer satisfaction scores. Is that accurate?" I guess so." "And yesterday's incident with the non-paying customers. Can you walk me through what happened from your perspective?" Lily glanced at Derek, who was studying his coffee like it held the secrets of the universe. No help there. "They ordered a lot of food and wine," Lily said slowly. "When I brought the check, they said they weren't paying. I asked them to reconsider. They refused. I told them I'd call the owner. They called him first. He came and handled it." "Handled it how?" "He made them pay and apologize." Patricia made a note. "Did you at any point raise your voice, use profanity, or physically impede their exit?" "No." "Did you follow company protocol for dealing with difficult customers?" Lily hesitated. "I'm not sure there is a protocol for customers who refuse to pay their bill." Patricia's mouth twitched in what might have been amusement. "Fair point." She closed the folder. "Mr. Cole has requested that we update our staff handbook to include clearer guidelines for situations like this. He's also implementing mandatory training for all management on supporting staff during customer conflicts." "Wait, what?" "I don't understand," Lily said. "You're not in trouble, Ms. Harper. Quite the opposite. Mr. Cole was very clear that your actions yesterday were exemplary and that the company failed to provide you with adequate backup. We're here to ensure that doesn't happen again." Derek shifted uncomfortably. Lily wondered how much of a dressing down he'd received for not intervening yesterday. "Additionally," Patricia continued, "Mr. Cole asked me to discuss your current compensation. You're making minimum wage plus tips, correct?" "Yes. We'd like to offer you a raise. $2 above minimum, effective immediately. We're also implementing a policy where attempted walkouts will be covered by the restaurant, not taken from server paychecks." Lily's brain struggled to keep up. A raise, policy changes? This didn't make sense. People like her didn't get raises for doing their jobs. They got fired for causing problems. Why? The question came out before she could stop it. Patricia looked at her for a long moment. "Because Mr. Cole believes in taking care of employees who demonstrate integrity under pressure, and because what happened to you was unacceptable." "I don't need special treatment," Lily said quickly. "I just did what anyone would—" "That's where you're wrong," Patricia interrupted gently. "Most people wouldn't have stood up to those men. Most people would have let them leave and accepted the loss because fighting back felt too risky. You chose differently. That matters." It was almost exactly what Ethan had said yesterday. You stood your ground when most people wouldn't have. "Do you accept the raise?" Patricia asked. Yes, of course. Thank you. Good. Derek will update your paperwork. If you have any other concerns about your working conditions or customer interactions, you're encouraged to bring them directly to management or to my office. Here's my card." The card was heavy stock, embossed. Patricia Mendez, Director of Human Resources, Cole Restaurant Group. A direct line to corporate. Lily had never had a direct line to anything in her life. "Thank you," she said again, because she didn't know what else to say. Patricia gathered her folder and stood. "I'll be conducting interviews with the rest of the staff over the next week as part of our overall assessment. This isn't just about yesterday. Mr. Cole wants to understand how all his restaurants are functioning and where we can improve." She left, and suddenly Lily was alone with Derek, who still couldn't quite meet her eyes. "So," he said finally, "that happened." "Yeah, look. About yesterday." He rubbed the back of his neck. "I should have backed you up. I was in the office doing inventory, and by the time I heard what was going on, Ethan was already here. But I should have been paying more attention." It was probably the closest thing to an apology she'd get from him. "It's fine," Lily said. "It's not, though. That's what Patricia was really here for, to make it clear that management needs to do better. Which means I need to do better. He finally looked at her. You were right to stand up to them. I'm sorry I wasn't there to help. Lily nodded, not trusting herself to speak. 2 apologies in 2 days, the universe felt tilted on its axis. Your shift starts in 45 minutes, Derek said. Take a minute if you need it. She did need it. Needed to sit in the break room and stare at Patricia's business card and try to convince herself this was real. That she'd stood up for herself and somehow it had worked out. That the world had, just this once, bent in her favor instead of crushing her flat. The break room was empty except for Sophia, who was early for her shift and scrolling through her phone. She looked up when Lily entered, her eyes going wide. Oh my God, you're alive. Why wouldn't I be? Because the group chat has spent the last 18 hours convinced you were either fired or about to be promoted to regional manager. The theories were getting wild. Lily sank into a chair. I got a raise. What? $2 above minimum, and they're changing the walkout policy so it doesn't come out of our paychecks anymore. Sophia's mouth fell open. Because of yesterday? I guess. Holy shit, Lily. You're like a legend now. You know that, right? You stood up to those assholes and Ethan Cole actually had your back. That never happens. Like never ever. It was just... Lily struggled to explain. I couldn't let them leave. I needed that money. Yeah, but most people would have just taken the hit or cried in the bathroom and let Derek handle it. You made them pay. You made them apologize. That's badass. Badass. Another word that had never applied to Lily Harper. Shy? Yes. Anxious? Definitely. Forgettable? Certainly. But badass? I was terrified the whole time, Lily admitted. That's what makes it brave, dummy. If you weren't scared, it wouldn't count. Sophia leaned forward, grinning. So what was he like? Ethan Cole? Up close? Intense. Intimidating. But he was nice, I think. He told me I did the right thing. And then he gave you his phone number. Lily's head snapped up. How do you know about that? Marcus saw him typing on his phone right after you left and put 2 and 2 together. Is it weird that I'm jealous? I've worked here for 2 years and I've met him exactly once at the Christmas party, and he definitely doesn't have my number. He was just checking that I got home okay. That's still more personal attention than any other server gets. Face it, Lily, you made an impression. The shift started before Lily could think too hard about what kind of impression she'd made, or whether it was good or bad or somewhere in between. The lunch rush was lighter than usual, a Wednesday lull that meant more time to chat between tables and less running around like a decapitated chicken. Lily fell into the familiar rhythm, greeting customers, taking orders, delivering food, clearing plates. Normal. Safe. Except nothing felt quite normal anymore. She kept replaying yesterday in her head, the weight of the check folio in her hands, the sound of Ethan's voice cutting through the tension. You stood your ground when most people wouldn't have. Around 2, during the post-lunch slowdown, Marcus cornered her by the coffee station. Okay, I need details, he said. What did Patricia want? What did Derek say? Is Ethan coming back? Patricia gave me a raise. Derek apologized. And I have no idea if Ethan's coming back. Why would I know? Because he gave you his number. For emergencies. Still counts. Marcus poured himself a cup of coffee, even though he'd probably already had 6. You know what people are saying, right? I don't want to know what people are saying. They're saying he's interested in you. Lily laughed, an actual, genuine laugh that surprised her. That's ridiculous. He's my boss. He owns the restaurant. He was just doing his job. His job doesn't include texting employees to make sure they got home safe. He was being nice. Ethan Cole doesn't do nice. He does efficient, profitable, strategic. Nice isn't part of his brand. Marcus studied her over the rim of his coffee cup. I've worked here longer than you. I've seen him maybe 10 times total, and every single time he's been all business. Cold, even. But yesterday, when he walked in and saw what was happening, I've never seen him look like that. Like what? Protective. The word settled uncomfortably in Lily's chest. She didn't need protecting. Didn't want to be someone who needed protecting. That's what had gotten her into this mess in the first place. Spending 30 years being small and quiet and letting other people fight her battles. Except no one had ever actually fought her battles before. She just lost them quietly. He was protecting the restaurant's reputation, Lily said. That's all. Keep telling yourself that. Marcus drained his coffee and headed back to the kitchen, leaving Lily alone with her thoughts. The afternoon dragged. Lily's tables were a mix of regulars who barely looked up from their laptops and tourists who asked too many questions about the menu. None of them caused problems. None of them even came close to the drama of yesterday. It was boring and routine and exactly what she needed. At 4, Derek appeared at her station. "Mr. Cole is here. He'd like to speak with you in the office." Lily's heart dropped into her stomach. "Did I do something wrong?" "No idea. He just asked for you specifically." She followed Derek through the kitchen, past Marcus, who gave her a significant look, and into the small office that suddenly felt even smaller with Ethan Cole occupying it. He stood when she entered, which surprised her. Men like him didn't usually stand for women like her. "Lily, thanks for making time. Please, sit." Derek lingered in the doorway until Ethan glanced at him pointedly. "That'll be all, Derek." The door closed, and they were alone. Ethan sat on the edge of the desk, the same position he'd taken yesterday. Lily wondered if it was a power move, standing above her while appearing casual, or if he genuinely didn't realize how intimidating his presence was. "I wanted to check in," he said. "See how you're doing after yesterday." "I'm fine. Are you?" The question was gentle but persistent, like he could see through her automatic response to the truth underneath, that she'd barely slept. That every time she closed her eyes, she saw those men's faces, heard their laughter, that she kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. "It was intense," she admitted, "but I'm handling it." "I spoke with Patricia this morning. She said you accepted the raise." "Yes." "Thank you. You didn't have to do that." "I did, actually. You were underpaid for the work you do." He paused. "I've been looking through the numbers for this location. Did you know your customer satisfaction scores are 15% higher than the restaurant average?" Lily blinked. "I didn't know we had customer satisfaction scores. Comment cards, online reviews, third-party feedback. We track all of it. You get mentioned by name in reviews more than any other server. People specifically request your tables. I just try to be helpful." "You're good at your job. Better than good." Ethan crossed his arms. "Which makes me wonder why you're still working lunch shifts for minimum wage after 3 years." The question felt like a trap. "I never asked for a promotion." "Why not?" "Because asking for things meant risking rejection. Because promotions went to people who were confident and assertive and everything Lily wasn't. Because she'd learned a long time ago that keeping her head down and not making waves was the safest path through life. But she couldn't say any of that to Ethan Cole. "I don't know," she said instead. He studied her for a long moment, those dark eyes seeing too much. "What do you want, Lily?" "I don't understand. From your career, from this job, from your life. What do you actually want?" No one had ever asked her that before. Not her parents, not her ex-boyfriend who'd left her for someone more exciting, not the guidance counselor who'd suggested community college when Lily had dreamed of art school. No one had ever treated her wants as something worth discussing. "I want to not worry about money," she said slowly. "I want to feel like what I do matters. I want—" She trailed off, embarrassed. "You want what?" "To not be invisible anymore." The words came out barely above a whisper, but Ethan heard them. Something shifted in his expression, not pity exactly, but understanding. "You're not invisible," he said quietly. "You never were. You just surrounded yourself with people who refused to see you." The observation was too close, too accurate. Lily felt exposed, like he'd peeled back her skin and examined all the soft, vulnerable parts she kept hidden. "I'm offering you a position," Ethan said, changing direction before she could spiral too far into her own head. "Assistant manager trainee. It's a 6-month program. You'd shadow current managers, learn operations, eventually take on more responsibility. The pay is salary, not hourly. Better benefits. Room for advancement." Lily's mouth went dry. "Me?" "Yes, you. But I'm just a—" "If you finish that sentence with just a waitress, I'm going to be very disappointed." His tone was mild but firm. "You have 3 years of experience, excellent customer relations skills, and yesterday you demonstrated better judgment under pressure than half my management team. You're qualified." "I don't know anything about being a manager." "That's why it's a training program." "What if I'm bad at it?" "Then we'll figure it out. But I don't think you will be." He leaned forward slightly. I think you've spent so long convincing yourself you're not capable of more that you've stopped trying. This is your chance to try. Lily's hands were shaking again. This was too much, too fast. Yesterday, she'd been a nobody waitress, and now Ethan Cole was offering her a management position and talking about her potential like it was real. Why? She asked. Why me? Because yesterday, when 3 grown men tried to intimidate you into letting them steal from my restaurant, you stood your ground. Because when they mocked you and dismissed you and treated you like you didn't matter, you refused to accept that narrative. Because most people talk about integrity, but you actually demonstrated it when it cost you something. He paused. And because I recognize potential when I see it, even when the person possessing it doesn't. I need to think about it, Lily said, because agreeing immediately felt too vulnerable, too much like admitting how desperately she wanted this. Fair enough. Take the rest of the week. Let me know by Monday. Ethan stood, signaling the meeting was over. And Lily, stop underestimating yourself. It's getting old. She left the office in a daze, nearly colliding with Sophia in the hallway. What happened? Sophia demanded. You look like you've seen a ghost. He offered me a job, a promotion, manager training. What? I don't know if I should take it. Sophia grabbed her shoulders. Are you insane? Of course you should take it. This is incredible. But what if I fail? Then you fail and you're back where you started. But what if you succeed? What if you're actually amazing at it? You'll never know unless you try. It was almost exactly what Ethan had said. You've stopped trying. The rest of her shift passed in a blur. Lily went through the motions, smiling at customers, delivering food, processing payments, but her mind was elsewhere. In 6 months as a management trainee, in a year as an actual manager, in a future where she wasn't just surviving, but actually building something. It felt impossible. It felt terrifying. It felt like maybe, just maybe, something worth reaching for. By closing time, the group chat had exploded again with speculation about why Ethan had requested a private meeting. Lily ignored it, walking home in the warm evening air, Patricia's business card and Ethan's job offer weighing heavy in her pocket. Her apartment looked the same as always, small, cluttered, the crack in the ceiling still resembling a river she'd never followed. But something felt different. Or maybe she felt different. She pulled out her phone and stared at Ethan's contact information. He'd said to let him know by Monday. That gave her 4 days to decide whether to stay safe in the comfortable misery of her current life or risk everything for the possibility of something better. 4 days to decide if she was brave enough to believe in herself the way Ethan Cole apparently believed in her. Her finger hovered over the message icon. She could text him now, accept the offer before fear had time to talk her out of it. But instead, she set the phone down and stared at that crack in the ceiling, tracing its path with her eyes, wondering where it might lead if she was finally brave enough to follow it. Thursday morning arrived with rain. Lily woke to the sound of it against her window, steady and insistent, the kind of spring storm that turned the city streets into rivers and made everyone irritable. She lay in bed listening to it, her phone charging on the nightstand, Ethan's unanswered offer sitting in her message history like a question she didn't know how to answer. 3 more days until Monday. 3 more days to decide. She'd spent most of Wednesday night making lists, pros and cons, risks and rewards, all the logical reasons why she should or shouldn't accept the management position. The pro list was longer. Better pay, better benefits, room for growth, a chance to prove herself. The con list was shorter but heavier. What if she failed? What if everyone realized she didn't belong? What if Ethan saw something in her that wasn't actually there? By 2 in the morning, she'd given up on logic and tried to sleep instead. It hadn't worked particularly well. Now, watching rain streak down the glass, she felt hollow, exhausted, like she'd spent the night wrestling with questions too big for her to handle alone. Her shift didn't start until 11. She had time to shower, to make coffee that tasted like burnt regret, to stare at her phone and not send the message that kept forming in her head. The coffee maker sputtered and died halfway through brewing, because of course it did. Lily stood in her tiny kitchen in her pajamas, watching brown liquid drip pathetically into the pot, and felt tears prick at her eyes for absolutely no reason. Everything was too much. The broken coffee maker, the rain, the job offer, the way her entire life seemed to be shifting under her feet without asking permission first. She was still standing there on the verge of crying over appliances when her phone rang. Unknown number. Probably spam. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Hello? Lily, it's Ethan. Her brain short-circuited. Ethan Cole was calling her. On the phone, at 8:30 in the morning on a rainy Thursday. "Oh, hi. Good morning, sir. Mr. Cole. Ethan is fine." There was something almost amused in his voice. "Sorry to call so early. Do you have a minute? I'm just making coffee, or trying to. My coffee maker broke." Why was she telling him about her coffee maker? What was wrong with her? "That's frustrating," Ethan said, and he actually sounded like he meant it. "Listen, I'm calling because I have a favor to ask. It's completely outside your job description, and you're absolutely allowed to say no." "Okay, I have a situation. My nanny called in sick, my backup fell through, and I have meetings all morning that I can't reschedule. I need someone to watch my daughter for a few hours." Lily's mouth fell open. "Your daughter? Emma? She's 4. Normally this wouldn't be an issue, but my regular childcare options have all somehow conspired to be unavailable on the same day." He paused. "I know this is asking a lot. You're an employee, not a babysitter, but you're also one of the few people I trust, and I'm running out of options." Trust. He trusted her. Ethan Cole, who barely knew her, who'd only seen her stand up to 3 assholes and serve food with a smile, trusted her with his child. "I've never really babysat before," Lily admitted. I watched my cousin's kids a couple times, but they were older, and one of them set the microwave on fire, so I'm not sure I'm qualified. The bar is pretty low. Keep her alive and relatively entertained for 3 hours. Can you do that?" Could she? Probably. Maybe. The microwave incident had technically not been her fault. "What time?" she asked. "I can pick you up in 20 minutes if that works. I'll pay you, obviously, double your hourly rate." "You don't have to pay me. I'm asking you to spend your day off watching a 4-year-old. I'm absolutely paying you." His tone left no room for argument. 20 minutes? "Okay, yes, I'll be ready." She hung up and stared at her phone. What had she just agreed to? She was going to meet Ethan Cole's daughter. She was going to be in his home. This was so far outside the normal boundaries of boss-employee relationships that she couldn't even see the boundaries anymore. 18 minutes later, she was standing in the lobby of her building in clean jeans and a sweater that didn't have any visible stains, her hair still damp from the world's fastest shower. Mrs. Patterson looked up from her newspaper as a black car pulled up outside. "Fancy," the older woman observed. "It's my boss." "Your boss picks you up in a town car?" "It's complicated." The driver, an older man in a suit, opened the back door, and Lily slid inside to find Ethan already there, typing something on his phone with the focused intensity of someone fighting a losing battle against his inbox. He looked different in the morning light, less intimidating somehow. His suit jacket was off, his tie loosened, and there was a coffee stain on his shirt cuff that he either hadn't noticed or didn't care about. More human, more real. "Thank you for doing this," he said, not looking up from his phone. "Seriously, you're saving my life." "It's fine, really." He finally looked at her, and something in his expression softened. "You look nervous." "I just don't want to mess this up." Emma's pretty resilient and low maintenance as 4-year-olds go. She likes books, drawing, and asking why about everything. Her current obsession is dinosaurs. Dinosaurs I can handle. The drive took 15 minutes, winding through neighborhoods that got progressively nicer until they pulled up to a brownstone in a tree-lined street that screamed old money. The building was beautiful, the kind of place Lily had only ever seen in magazines or movies about people whose problems were never about money. Inside, the apartment was exactly what she'd expected and nothing like it at the same time. High ceilings, hardwood floors, furniture that looked expensive but comfortable. But there were also toys scattered across the living room floor, crayon drawings taped to the walls, a half-finished puzzle on the coffee table. It looked lived in, loved. "Emma," Ethan called, "come meet Miss Lily." A small figure appeared in the hallway, dark hair in 2 messy braids, wearing pajamas covered in cartoon dinosaurs, clutching a stuffed triceratops that had seen better days. She regarded Lily with the solemn intensity that only small children could manage. "Are you the babysitter?" "I guess I am." "Daddy said you're very nice and you work at his restaurant." "That's right." Emma considered this. "Do you know how to make pancakes?" "Emma," Ethan said, "you already had breakfast." "But does she know how?" I do know how, Lily said, crouching down to Emma's level. Is that an important skill? Very important. Daddy makes terrible pancakes. They're always burnt. Hey, Ethan protested, but he was smiling. They're not always burnt. Last time one was still frozen in the middle. Lily bit back a laugh. Ethan Cole, billionaire restaurant owner, couldn't make pancakes. The information felt precious, like a secret she wasn't supposed to know. I have to leave in 5 minutes, Ethan said, checking his watch. Emergency numbers are on the fridge. My cell is at the top of the list. Call me if anything happens, and I mean anything. Emma's allergic to strawberries. I know, Daddy. You tell everyone. Because it's important. He pulled on his jacket, grabbed his briefcase. Her lunch is in the fridge. She can watch one movie, but make her take breaks to play or draw or something. Bedtime is 8, but obviously I'll be back before then. We'll be fine, Lily said, with more confidence than she felt. Ethan paused at the door, looking back at his daughter with an expression that made Lily's chest ache. Love, pure and uncomplicated. The kind of love she'd never seen from her own father. Be good for Miss Lily, he said. I'm always good. Debatable. But he was smiling as he left, and then it was just Lily and Emma and the sudden weight of responsibility. Emma tilted her head, studying Lily with those dark eyes that were so much like her father's. Do you want to see my dinosaur collection? I would love to see your dinosaur collection. The next 3 hours passed faster than Lily expected. Emma was, as Ethan had promised, relatively low maintenance. She showed Lily her extensive dinosaur collection, plastic figures of varying sizes, all with names and elaborate backstories. There was Reginald the T-Rex, who was afraid of the dark, Sophie the Stegosaurus, who only ate green vegetables, Trevor the Pteranodon, who secretly wanted to be a sea creature. Trevor's sad because he can't swim, Emma explained seriously, but I told him that's okay because stegosauruses can't fly and they're still happy. That's very wise, Lily said. They played dinosaurs for a while, acted out elaborate scenarios involving meteor strikes and ice ages, then moved on to drawing. Emma's artistic style was enthusiastic chaos, dinosaurs and rainbows, and what might have been her father, though the figure had 3 arms and purple hair. That's Daddy, Emma confirmed, noticing Lily's confusion. He's a wizard in this picture. What kind of wizard? The kind that makes restaurants appear. Emma added more purple to the hair. And he makes bad guys go away. Something in the way she said it made Lily pause. What bad guys? The ones who are mean to people. Emma switched to a green crayon. Daddy says being mean is not okay, even if you have lots of money. Money doesn't make you the boss of people. Lily wondered what conversations had led to that particular lesson. Wondered how much Emma understood about what her father did, about the power he held. Your daddy's right, she said quietly. They ate lunch, grilled cheese sandwiches that Lily didn't burn, which Emma declared way better than Daddy's. And then Emma wanted to watch her movie. She chose something animated about a princess who built a library instead of getting married, which seemed very on brand for a 4-year-old dinosaur enthusiast. Halfway through, Emma climbed onto the couch next to Lily and leaned against her side. The casual trust of it nearly broke Lily's heart. When was the last time someone had trusted her like this? Just assumed she was safe, worth leaning on? Miss Lily? Emma asked during a quiet moment in the movie. Yeah? Are you Daddy's friend? The question caught Lily off guard. I work for your daddy. But are you friends too? I don't know. Maybe. Emma thought about this. I think you are. He smiled when he talked about you this morning. He doesn't smile a lot. Lily didn't know what to do with that information. Didn't know how to process the idea that Ethan Cole had smiled while talking about her, or that his daughter had noticed, or what any of it meant. He should smile more, Emma continued. He looks nicer when he smiles. Does he not look nice usually? Sometimes he looks tired or worried. Auntie Sarah says he works too much. Emma picked at a loose thread on her dinosaur pajamas. Mommy used to make him smile all the time, before she left. The words hung in the air. Before she left. Not before she died. Left. Lily's mind raced through implications. Divorce, abandonment. She didn't know Ethan's story, had never thought to ask. I'm sorry, Lily said softly. It's okay. I don't really remember her much. I was little. Emma seemed unbothered, more focused on the movie than the conversation. Daddy says she had to go far away and she's not coming back. But we're okay, just us. Just us. A 4-year-old and her father, building a life together from whatever pieces were left. You and your dad seem pretty great together, Lily offered. We are. Emma's confidence was absolute. He makes bad pancakes, but he reads me stories every night, and he knows all the dinosaur names, even the hard ones like Pachycephalosaurus. That is a hard one. I can spell it. Want to hear? Absolutely. Emma spelled it, incorrectly, but with impressive confidence. And then the movie reclaimed her attention. Lily sat there with a 4-year-old leaning against her side, in an apartment that probably cost more than she'd earn in 10 years, and felt something shift in her chest. This was Ethan's life. Not just the restaurants and the money and the power to ban people who stepped out of line. This. Coming home to a kid who loved dinosaurs and couldn't spell Pachycephalosaurus but tried anyway. Making terrible pancakes because he was trying. Reading bedtime stories and teaching life lessons about kindness. He was just a person. A tired person doing his best. The movie ended. Emma wanted to play dinosaurs again, so they did. Then she wanted to draw more pictures, which turned into making cards for various people in her life. One for Daddy, one for Auntie Sarah, one for Miss Lily the babysitter who doesn't burn lunch. At 3:30 the door opened and Ethan walked in looking exhausted. His tie was gone entirely now, his hair messed up like he'd been running his hands through it, and the coffee stain on his cuff had been joined by what looked like ink. Daddy! Emma launched herself at him, and he caught her easily, lifting her up despite the briefcase still in his other hand. Hey, sweetheart, were you good? So good. Miss Lily knows how to make real grilled cheese, and she let me show her all my dinosaurs, and we made cards and watched Princess Amelia and... Breathe, Ethan said, but he was smiling. That smile Emma had talked about, the one that made him look nicer, younger, less like an intimidating billionaire and more like a dad who was just happy to be home. He set Emma down and turned to Lily. How was she really? Perfect. We had a great time. She didn't ask you a million questions about why the sky is blue or where thoughts come from. Only like 500,000. That's restraint for her. He pulled out his wallet, counting bills. You don't have to, Lily started. We had a deal. Double your hourly rate for 3 hours. He handed her money that was definitely more than that, plus a tip for not running away screaming. She was great, honestly. Well, thank you anyway, for saving the day. Again. Something in his expression shifted, became more serious. You keep doing that. Doing what? Showing up when I need someone reliable. The words settled warm in her chest. Reliable. It wasn't glamorous or exciting, but coming from him it felt like the highest compliment. Emma tugged on Lily's hand. Can you babysit again, please? You're way better than Mrs. Henderson. She makes me eat vegetables. I made you eat vegetables too, Lily pointed out, but you made them taste good. Ethan laughed. A real laugh, not just a polite chuckle. I'll take that as a ringing endorsement. I should go, Lily said, suddenly aware that she was standing in her boss's living room, his daughter holding her hand, money in her pocket that felt like more than just payment for babysitting. Let you guys have your afternoon. I'll have my driver take you home. I can take the bus. Lily, he said her name like it was a full sentence. Let me give you a ride. She nodded, not trusting her voice. Emma insisted on walking her to the door, presenting her with the card she'd made. A crayon drawing of what might have been Lily, though the hair was bright yellow and the figure appeared to have wings. That's you as a dragon, Emma explained, because dragons are cool and you're cool. Best compliment I've ever received, Lily said honestly. In the car, watching the nice neighborhood give way to less nice ones, Lily thought about Emma's words. He smiled when he talked about you this morning. He doesn't smile a lot. She thought about the way he'd looked at his daughter, the love so evident it hurt to witness, the way he'd called Lily reliable, like it mattered, like she mattered. Her phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. Thank you again. Emma hasn't stopped talking about you. I think you've been upgraded to favorite person status. Lily smiled at the screen, typing and deleting responses until she settled on something simple. She's an amazing kid. You're doing a great job with her. The response came quickly. I'm trying. Some days are better than others. Today was a good day. Because you were here. Lily stared at those 4 words, her heart doing something complicated in her chest. Because you were here. Not because of the babysitting or the grilled cheese or the fact that she hadn't let his daughter set anything on fire. Because she, specifically, had been there. She didn't know how to respond to that, so she didn't. Just watched the city slide past the car window and tried to figure out what was happening between her and Ethan Cole. Because something was definitely happening. Something that felt bigger than a boss being nice to an employee. Something that scared her almost as much as the job offer. When she got home, her apartment felt smaller than usual. Emptier. She'd spent 3 hours in a space filled with laughter and dinosaurs, and a kid who thought she was cool enough to be a dragon, and coming back to her silent studio felt like stepping backward into a life she'd outgrown without noticing. The crack in her ceiling was still there. The broken coffee maker sat on the counter, a monument to things that didn't work anymore. Lily looked at her phone, at Ethan's contact information, at the decision still waiting for an answer. "What do you want?" he'd asked her. She wanted to stop being afraid, wanted to believe she could be more than what she'd always been, wanted to take the chance he was offering and trust that maybe, just maybe, she wouldn't fail. She wanted to see him smile again. The thought surprised her with its clarity, not just the job or the money or the chance at something better. She wanted to be someone who made Ethan Cole smile, the way Emma said she had. Wanted to matter to someone who seemed to matter quite a lot. Before she could talk herself out of it, she opened a new message. "I've been thinking about your offer, the management position." 3 dots appeared immediately, like he'd been waiting for her to write. And her fingers hovered over the keyboard. This was it. The moment where she either jumped or stayed safely on the ledge. "I want to say yes, but I'm scared I'll disappoint you." The response took longer this time. She watched those 3 dots appear and disappear, while her heart tried to beat its way out of her chest. "You won't." "How do you know?" "Because I've seen you handle pressure. I've seen you stand up for what's right when it would have been easier to back down. I've seen you with my daughter, and that's the highest bar there is. You're capable of more than you think, Lily. Trust me on that. And if I fail, then you fail, and you learn from it, and you try again. That's how growth works." She read the message 3 times, letting the words sink in. Then she typed the scariest sentence of her life. "Okay, I'll do it. I accept the position." "Good. I'll have Patricia send over the paperwork tomorrow. You start a week from Monday. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for being brave enough to believe in yourself." Lily set her phone down and looked around her apartment. The broken coffee maker, the unmade bed, the crack in the ceiling that had been her only companion for too many lonely nights. "Okay," she said out loud to the empty room. "Okay, we're doing this." The room didn't answer, but for the first time in a long time, the silence didn't feel quite so heavy. Friday and Saturday blurred together in a haze of regular shifts and curious looks from coworkers who'd heard she was moving into management. Some seemed happy for her. Sophia hugged her so hard she couldn't breathe. Marcus offered to teach her everything he knew about dealing with difficult vendors. Others seemed resentful, like she'd somehow jumped the line or didn't deserve the opportunity. Derek was professional but distant, probably still processing his own dressing down from corporate. Patricia emailed the paperwork as promised, contracts and handbooks and orientation schedules that made everything feel suddenly, terrifyingly real. Sunday, Lily's day off, she spent cleaning her apartment and trying not to think too hard about everything that was changing. But her mind kept drifting back to Thursday afternoon, to Emma's casual trust, and Ethan's tired smile, and the way it had felt to be needed by people who seemed to actually see her. Her phone rang around 2. Ethan again. "Hi," she said, trying to sound casual and failing. "Hey, are you busy?" "Just avoiding doing laundry. Why?" "Emma keeps asking when you're coming back. I told her you have your own life, but she's persistent." A pause. "We're going to the Natural History Museum this afternoon, the dinosaur exhibit. She wanted to know if you'd like to join us." Lily's heart did that complicated thing again. "You don't have to invite me just because Emma wants." "I want you to come too," Ethan interrupted. "If you're interested. No pressure." She should say no. Should maintain professional boundaries, keep things separate, boss and employee. That's all this was. Except it wasn't. Not anymore. Maybe it never had been. What time? She asked. The museum was crowded with families, kids running between exhibits while exhausted parents trailed behind. Emma held both Lily's hand and Ethan's, swinging between them like a bridge, chattering about every dinosaur they passed. That's an Allosaurus. It was like a T-Rex but smaller, and it lived in the Jurassic period, not the Cretaceous, and it probably hunted in packs. The information poured out of her in an endless stream, and Ethan caught Lily's eye over his daughter's head, his expression somewhere between pride and amusement. They spent 2 hours wandering through prehistoric worlds, Emma providing running commentary, Ethan occasionally correcting her more creative interpretations of paleontology, Lily just enjoying being part of something that felt like family, even though it wasn't. In the gift shop afterward, Emma gravitated toward a stuffed brachiosaurus that was nearly as big as she was. Please, Daddy, I'll take such good care of it. You said that about the last 3 dinosaurs. But I did take good care of them. They're all very happy. Ethan looked at Lily helplessly. What do you think? The question surprised her. He was asking her opinion on parenting decisions, like her input mattered. I think, Lily said carefully, that Dinosaur looks pretty lonely on that shelf. Probably needs a good home. Emma's face lit up. Ethan shook his head, but he was smiling, pulling out his wallet. I'm surrounded by women who enable each other. It's a conspiracy, Lily agreed. Walking out of the museum with Emma clutching her new brachiosaurus, named Gerald, after apparently much deliberation, Ethan's hand brushed against Lily's, not quite holding it, but close enough that she could feel the warmth of his skin, the accidental intimacy of the moment. Thank you for coming, he said quietly, while Emma skipped ahead, introducing Gerald to various pigeons. You didn't have to give up your Sunday. I wanted to. Still, it means a lot, to both of us. The way he said it, the weight behind the words, made Lily's breath catch. This wasn't just a boss being nice to an employee. This was something else, something that probably shouldn't happen, but was happening anyway. Ethan, she started, not sure what she was going to say. But Emma ran back to them, demanding ice cream, and the moment passed. They got ice cream, vanilla for Emma, chocolate for Lily, Ethan claiming he didn't want any, then stealing bites from both of them. They sat on a bench in the park while Emma fed pieces of her cone to grateful pigeons, and the afternoon sun turned everything golden. I start the training program tomorrow, Lily said. Nervous? Terrified. Good. Fear means you care about doing well. He looked at her, really looked at her, and she felt seen in a way that was becoming dangerously familiar. You're going to be great. I know it. How? Because I've never been wrong about people. He smiled slightly. Well, rarely wrong. Emma climbed onto the bench between them. Gerald, the brachiosaurus, clutched to her chest, ice cream smeared on her face. Miss Lily, are you going to work with Daddy now? Sort of. I'm going to learn how to be a manager at the restaurant. That means you'll be the boss of people? Eventually, maybe. Good. You should be the boss. You're nice. Bosses should be nice. She looked at her father. Right, Daddy? Absolutely right. The afternoon faded into evening. Ethan's driver picked them up, dropped Lily off first. Emma insisted on a hug goodbye, wrapping sticky ice cream hands around Lily's neck and whispering, Come back soon, okay? I will, Lily promised. In the car, watching the city lights start to glow, Ethan said, She's already attached to you. Fair warning. Is that a problem? No, just be careful with her. She doesn't let people in easily. I'll be careful. I know you will. He paused. That's why I'm not worried. At her building, he walked her to the door, despite her protests that it wasn't necessary. The rain from earlier in the week had cleared, leaving the air fresh and clean, the evening warm enough that Lily didn't need her jacket. Thank you again, Ethan said, for everything. The babysitting, accepting the position, today. All of it. You keep thanking me for things I wanted to do anyway. Still, I'm not good at asking for help. He trailed off, looking uncomfortable. Hard to trust people? Lily offered. Yeah, I get that. They stood there in the awkward space between goodbye and something more, the air thick with things neither of them were saying. Lily could feel her heart racing, could see something conflicted in Ethan's expression. I should go, he said finally. Emma's probably driving the driver crazy with dinosaur facts. Right, of course. He turned to leave, then stopped, turned back. Lily? Yeah? I'm glad you're here, in my life. I know that's probably not appropriate to say, given that I'm your boss, but it's true. So, there it is. And then he was gone, leaving Lily standing on her doorstep with her heart doing gymnastics and her mind racing through all the implications of what he'd just said. Inside her apartment, she collapsed on her bed and stared at that crack in the ceiling. The river she'd traced 1,000 times, always wondering where it led. Maybe she was finally about to find out. Monday morning came too fast and too slow at the same time. Lily had barely slept, her mind cycling through everything that could go wrong on her first day as a management trainee. She'd arrive and everyone would realize it was a mistake. She'd mess up her first task. Derek would resent her new position. The other servers would think she'd slept her way into the promotion. Never mind that nothing had actually happened between her and Ethan beyond some charged silences and a few texts that felt like more than they probably were. By 6 a.m., she gave up on sleep entirely. Made coffee in the ancient backup pot she'd dug out of storage, since her regular maker was still dead. Stood in front of her closet trying to figure out what a management trainee was supposed to wear. Not her server uniform anymore, but she didn't own much else. A black skirt she'd bought for her cousin's wedding 3 years ago. A white blouse that was slightly too big. Flats that were comfortable but not exactly professional. She looked in the mirror and saw exactly what she'd always seen. Someone playing dress-up, pretending to be more than she was. Stop it, she told herself. Ethan believes in you. Emma thinks you're cool enough to be a dragon. You stood up to 3 rich assholes and won. You can do this. The pep talk didn't quite stick, but it got her out the door. Magnolia Bistro looked different at 7:30 in the morning. The dining room was dark, chairs still stacked on tables from the night before, the whole place caught in that strange liminal space between closed and open. Lily let herself in through the back entrance, where deliveries came in and staff entered before the restaurant came to life. The kitchen was already awake. She could hear the prep cooks starting their work, the rhythm of knives on cutting boards. Someone's radio playing quietly. Marcus looked up from where he was checking inventory sheets. "Well, look at you, management," he grinned. "How's it feel?" "Ask me in 8 hours." "Fair. Patricia's waiting for you in the office." "Good luck." The office felt even smaller with Patricia already occupying it, her laptop open, files spread across Derek's desk like she'd colonized the space. She looked up when Lily knocked on the doorframe. "Right on time? Good. Have a seat." Lily sat, her hands folded in her lap to keep them from shaking. "First day nerves are normal," Patricia said, somehow reading her mind. "Everyone feels them, even Ethan, though he'd probably never admit it." She pulled out a thick binder. "This is your training manual. We'll go through the basics this morning. Scheduling, inventory management, vendor relations, staff oversight. Then you'll shadow Derek for lunch service, observe how he handles the floor." "Okay. You'll spend this week primarily observing. Next week, you'll start taking on small management tasks under supervision. By week 3, you should be comfortable enough to handle a shift with minimal oversight." Patricia's expression softened slightly. "This is a lot of information all at once. Don't expect to absorb everything immediately. Ask questions. Take notes. Make mistakes. That's how you learn." The morning passed in a blur of information. Lily's hand cramped from writing notes, her brain struggling to keep up with the sheer volume of procedures and protocols that went into running a restaurant. Food costs and labor percentages, and health code compliance and how to handle scheduling conflicts and what to do when a vendor shorted an order. It was overwhelming. It was terrifying. It was also kind of exciting. By 11, when the restaurant opened for lunch service, Lily's head was spinning. She followed Derek out to the floor, trying to stay out of the way while also paying attention to everything he did. How he greeted the hostess, checked on table setups, did a quick walkthrough of the dining room to make sure everything was ready. "The key," Derek said, "is to see problems before they become problems. That table by the window, see how the sun's hitting it directly? By noon it'll be unbearable, so we adjust the blinds now. The couple at table 4 looks dressed for a business meeting. They'll want fast service and privacy, so we seat the loud family that just walked in on the other side of the room." Lily nodded, absorbing the logic of it. Derek might not have backed her up last week, but he was good at his job. She could learn from that, even if she didn't particularly like him. The lunch rush started slow and built gradually. Lily watched Derek move through the room, checking on tables, supporting servers who looked overwhelmed, jumping in to run food when the kitchen got backed up. It was like conducting an orchestra, keeping all the moving pieces synchronized, making adjustments on the fly, staying calm when everything threatened to fall apart. Around 1, Sophia appeared at Lily's elbow. "There's a guy at table 9 asking for you specifically." Lily's stomach dropped. "What did I do?" "Nothing bad, I think. He just said he wanted to speak with Lily Harper." She followed Sophia to table 9, her mind racing through possibilities. A dissatisfied customer from a previous shift? Someone who'd heard about the incident with the 3 men and wanted to cause trouble? But the man sitting at table 9 wasn't anyone she recognized. Mid-50s, expensive suit, the kind of weathered face that came from years of getting exactly what he wanted. He looked up when she approached, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. "Ms. Harper, thank you for your time." He gestured to the empty chair across from him. "Please, sit." "I'm actually working. This will only take a moment, I promise." Every instinct told her to walk away. But curiosity won out. She sat, perched on the edge of the chair, ready to bolt. "My name is Richard Vance," the man said. "I'm an associate of the gentleman you had a disagreement with last week." "The 3 men, of course." Lily's hands clenched in her lap. "I'm not here to cause trouble," Richard continued smoothly. "Quite the opposite. I wanted to apologize on their behalf. Their behavior was inexcusable." "They already apologized. Mr. Cole made sure of that." "Yes, well, Ethan can be quite persuasive when he wants to be." Something flickered across Richard's face. "That's actually why I'm here. I wanted to offer you an opportunity." "I'm not interested in opportunities from people who refuse to pay their bills." "I paid my bill," Richard said mildly. "I wasn't there that day, but I understand your caution." He pulled out a business card, set it on the table between them. "I own several restaurants in the city, always looking for good people, especially people with your particular qualities." "What qualities?" "Backbone, integrity, the ability to stand up to powerful people." He leaned back in his chair. "Ethan has you working as a trainee, correct? I could offer you an assistant manager position immediately. Better pay, better benefits, a faster track to real responsibility." Lily stared at the business card. Richard Vance, Vance Hospitality Group. The address was in the nice part of town, the kind of place that probably had marble countertops and crystal chandeliers. "Why?" she asked. "Because talent is rare, and you clearly have it." "You don't know anything about me." "I know you stood up to 3 men who were trying to intimidate you. I know Ethan Cole saw something in you worth nurturing. That's enough." Richard's smile widened slightly. "Think about it. No pressure. But if you ever feel like your talents are being wasted, give me a call." He stood, dropped cash on the table for his coffee, plus a $50 tip that was absolutely calculated to make an impression, and walked out. Lily sat there holding his business card, her mind spinning. An assistant manager position. Immediately. Better pay. Everything she'd been afraid to want, handed to her on a silver platter by a man who'd walked in off the street. It felt wrong. Like a test she was already failing just by considering it. She shoved the card in her pocket and went back to shadowing Derek, but the interaction sat heavy in her chest for the rest of the shift. By 3, when lunch service wound down and Derek released her to go study the training manual, she was exhausted and confused and desperately needed to talk to someone who wasn't already entangled in this mess. Her phone buzzed as she was gathering her things. A text from Ethan. "How was day 1?" She stared at the message. Should she tell him about Richard Vance? About the job offer that felt more like a trap than an opportunity? Overwhelming, but good. Learned a lot. That's normal. Don't expect to master everything immediately. Easy for you to say. You probably mastered everything the first time you tried. You'd be surprised. I once set a walk-in freezer on fire during my first restaurant job. Lily actually laughed out loud in the empty break room. "How do you set a freezer on fire?" Long story involving faulty wiring and poor decision-making. The point is, everyone starts somewhere. You'll be fine. She wanted to tell him about Richard. Wanted to ask if it was normal for competitors to poach employees, if she should be flattered or insulted or worried. But something held her back. This felt like a problem she needed to solve herself. "Thanks. That helps. Emma wants to know if you're coming over for dinner this week. I told her you're probably busy with training, but she's persistent." The invitation warmed something in Lily's chest. Emma wanting to see her. Ethan asking, casual but not quite casual enough. I'd like that. When? Wednesday? I'll cook. Fair warning, my culinary skills are limited. You own restaurants, which is why I hire people who actually know how to cook. Wednesday works. She put her phone away before she could overthink what having dinner at her boss's apartment meant, what boundaries she was crossing, whether any of this was a good idea. The next 2 days passed in a haze of training. Lily absorbed information like a sponge, filling notebook after notebook with procedures and protocols. She shadowed Derek, observed how he handled difficult customers and kitchen mistakes, and servers who called in sick at the last minute. Started to see patterns in the chaos, the underlying structure that made the restaurant function. She also started noticing things that could be better. The scheduling system was inefficient, creating gaps in coverage that stressed everyone out. The inventory tracking was done on paper when a simple spreadsheet would save hours. The employee break room was depressing, fluorescent lights and a microwave that barely worked, and nowhere comfortable to sit during the 10-minute breaks servers were supposed to take but usually skipped. On Tuesday afternoon, Patricia found her in the office, staring at the scheduling board with a frown. Problem? Patricia asked. Not exactly. Just thinking about ways this could be more efficient. Such as? Lily explained her idea, color coding by skill level and availability, building in buffer time for busy periods, cross-training servers so anyone could cover any station. Patricia listened with an expression Lily couldn't quite read. That's good thinking, she said finally. Proactive. Write it up and send it to me. If it makes sense, we'll implement it. Really? You're in management now. Part of your job is identifying problems and proposing solutions. Don't wait for permission to have good ideas. The validation felt strange. Lily had spent her whole life waiting for permission, to speak up, to take up space, to believe her thoughts mattered. And here was Patricia, telling her the opposite. She spent Tuesday evening writing up her proposal, trying to make it sound professional and coherent. Sent it to Patricia at 9 p.m., then immediately regretted it. Too eager. Too much. She should have waited, revised it more, made sure it was perfect. Patricia's response came through at 9:15. This is excellent. I'm forwarding to Ethan for review. Well done. Lily stared at her phone. Ethan was going to read her proposal, judge whether her ideas were actually good or just the desperate attempts of someone trying too hard. His response came an hour later. Patricia sent me your scheduling proposal. It's smart. We should implement it across all locations. Can you develop a full rollout plan? She read the message 5 times, looking for sarcasm or politeness masking disappointment. But it seemed genuine. He thought her idea was smart, wanted her to develop it further. I can try. I've never done a rollout plan before. First time for everything. I'll set up a meeting for Thursday. You can walk me through your thinking. A meeting. With Ethan. To discuss her ideas. This was real. This was actually happening. Okay. Thursday works. And Lily? This is good work. Exactly the kind of initiative I was hoping to see from you. She went to bed that night feeling like maybe, possibly, she wasn't completely failing at this new role. Like maybe Ethan had been right about her potential. Wednesday arrived with a knot of anticipation in Lily's stomach that had nothing to do with work. Dinner at Ethan's apartment. With Emma, which made it not a date. Except it felt like something that wasn't quite not a date either. She left Magnolia at 4, went home to shower and change into jeans and a sweater that didn't scream trying too hard while also not looking like she didn't care. The balance was impossible to strike. She changed 3 times before settling on her original choice out of sheer frustration. Ethan's building looked less intimidating in the early evening light. Still expensive, still beautiful, but more welcoming somehow. The doorman recognized her from Sunday, waving her through with a smile. Emma answered Ethan's door, already talking before Lily was fully inside. Miss Lily, you came. Daddy's making spaghetti, but he's worried it's going to be terrible, so he made me promise to order pizza if it's inedible. His word, not mine. And Gerald missed you. And I learned a new dinosaur today. It's called Ankylosaurus, and it had a club on its tail for hitting predators. Breathe, Em, Ethan called from the kitchen. He appeared in the doorway wearing jeans and a t-shirt that somehow made him look both more approachable and more attractive. His hair was messy, his feet bare, and there was a smudge of tomato sauce on his jaw. You have something, Lily gestured to her own jaw. Ethan wiped at his face, missing entirely. Lily stepped forward without thinking, reaching up to brush the sauce away with her thumb. The moment her skin touched his, the air changed, charged. Ethan went very still, his eyes locked on hers, and Lily suddenly remembered that she was touching her boss's face in his apartment while his daughter watched. She stepped back quickly. "Sorry, It's fine." His voice came out rougher than usual. "Thanks." Emma, oblivious to the tension, grabbed Lily's hand and dragged her toward the living room. "Come see what I built. It's a dinosaur habitat with proper vegetation for herbivores." The habitat was an elaborate construction of blocks and toy trees and every plastic dinosaur Emma owned, arranged with the serious attention to detail of a 4-year-old who'd watched too many nature documentaries. "This is impressive," Lily said honestly. "I know. Daddy helped with the mountain range, but the rest is all mine." Emma launched into a detailed explanation of which dinosaurs lived where and why, occasionally correcting herself when she remembered a fact she'd previously gotten wrong. From the kitchen, Lily could hear Ethan cooking. The sizzle of garlic, the sound of stirring, a muttered curse when something presumably went wrong. It was domestic and normal and perfect in a way that made her chest ache. "Dinner's ready," Ethan announced, "assuming you're all brave enough to try it." The spaghetti was actually pretty good, not restaurant quality, but edible and made with obvious effort. They ate at the dining table, Emma chattering between bites about her day at preschool, Ethan occasionally interjecting with questions or gentle corrections when her stories got too fantastical. It felt like family, like something Lily had never quite had growing up. Easy conversation, laughter, the sense of being included rather than tolerated. "Miss Lily," Emma said through a mouthful of pasta, "are you Daddy's girlfriend?" Lily choked on her water. Ethan's fork clattered against his plate. "Em," he said, his voice strained, "that's not an appropriate question." "Why not? You said I could ask questions about things I'm curious about." "I meant questions about dinosaurs or why the sky is blue, not about my personal life." "But I'm curious about your personal life too. You never talk about it." Emma turned to Lily with the ruthless logic of a small child. "You're here for dinner, and you were here on Sunday, and Daddy smiles when you text him, so I thought maybe you were his girlfriend." "We're friends," Lily managed, her face burning. "I work for your dad." "You can be both. Auntie Sarah says Daddy needs someone nice because he's lonely." "Emma." Ethan's tone left no room for argument. "That's enough." Emma subsided, but her expression suggested she thought the adults were being ridiculous. Which, fair. They probably were. The rest of dinner passed in slightly awkward silence, broken only by Emma's attempts to resurrect the conversation with safer topics. After they finished, Ethan sent Emma to get ready for bed, leaving him and Lily alone with the dishes. "I'm sorry about that," Ethan said, scraping plates. "She's at that age where she says exactly what she's thinking with no filter. It's fine, she's 4. She doesn't know it's complicated." "Is it complicated?" He wasn't looking at her, focused intensely on rinsing a plate. Lily's heart hammered. "I don't know. Is it?" "It shouldn't be. You're my employee. I'm your boss. There are clear professional boundaries." "Right, clear boundaries. Except I keep inviting you to my home and introducing you to my daughter and texting you things that have nothing to do with work." He set the plate down, finally meeting her eyes. "So maybe it is complicated." "Maybe it is," Lily agreed quietly. They stood there in his kitchen, the dishwasher humming, Emma's voice drifting from down the hall as she sang to her dinosaurs, and the space between them felt charged with everything they weren't saying. "I don't want to make things difficult for you," Ethan said. "Your career is just starting. The last thing you need is people thinking you got ahead because of—" He trailed off. "Because I'm sleeping with the boss?" "Yeah. We're not sleeping together." "I know, but perception matters, especially for you." His jaw tightened. "I've seen how these things go. The man gets a knowing wink and a pat on the back. The woman gets her competence questioned and her reputation destroyed." He was right. Lily knew he was right. She'd seen it happen, heard the whispers about other women who dated their supervisors. How their promotions were suddenly suspect, their abilities diminished, everything they achieved attributed to who they were sleeping with rather than their actual skills. "So what are you saying?" she asked. "I'm saying we should keep things professional, for your sake." "And if I don't want to keep things professional?" The question hung between them. Ethan's expression shifted, surprise, want, conflict all flickering across his face in rapid succession. Lily, Daddy, Emma's voice cut through the moment. I'm ready for my story. Ethan closed his eyes briefly, looking torn. Then he called back, Coming, sweetheart. He looked at Lily. Stay? After I put her to bed? We should talk about this properly. She nodded, not trusting her voice. Lily cleaned up the kitchen while Ethan read Emma her bedtime story, listening to his voice drift down the hallway, patient and warm as he brought dinosaurs to life for his daughter. She washed dishes that were probably expensive, dried them carefully, tried to calm her racing heart. What was she doing? What were they doing? 20 minutes later, Ethan emerged, running a hand through his hair. She's out. Lasted 3 pages before her eyes closed. She's sweet. She's a menace who asks inappropriate questions at dinner. She's perceptive, Lily corrected. There's a difference. Ethan moved to the coffee maker, a much nicer model than Lily's deceased appliance. Want some? Sure. They sat on his couch, coffee mugs warming their hands, the apartment quiet except for the ambient sounds of the city outside. Lily had never been good at serious conversations, preferred to avoid conflict, smooth over tension, pretend everything was fine even when it wasn't. But this felt important enough to try. I meant what I said, Ethan started, about keeping things professional, not because I don't... He stopped, regrouped. I like you, Lily. More than I probably should. More than is smart, given our working relationship. But I don't want to be the reason your career gets derailed before it even starts. What if I'm willing to take that risk? You shouldn't have to. You've worked hard for this opportunity. You deserve to advance on your own merit without anyone questioning whether you earned it. And what do you deserve, like? Lily asked quietly. The question seemed to catch him off guard. What? You're always thinking about what's best for everyone else. What Emma needs, what's fair to me, what protects the business. But what about what you want? Ethan was quiet for a long moment, staring into his coffee like it held answers. What I want isn't always what's best. That's a cop-out. He looked up, something almost like a smile on his face. You're getting bolder. You told me to stop underestimating myself. I'm practicing. I'm noticing. He set his mug down. Okay, you want to know what I want? I want to not be lonely anymore. I want Emma to have people in her life who actually care about her, not just nannies I pay. I want to come home at the end of the day and talk to someone who understands what it's like to deal with difficult customers and unreasonable vendors and the 1,000 small fires that make up this business. He paused. And I want to stop thinking about you every time my phone buzzes. But I also want you to have a fair shot at success without my baggage complicating things. Lily's throat felt tight. What if I think you're worth the complication? You don't know what you're saying. You don't know what my baggage looks like. So tell me. Ethan leaned back against the couch, exhaustion evident in every line of his body. Emma's mother left when Emma was 18 months old. Just packed her bags one day and walked out. Said she couldn't do it anymore. The responsibility, the constraints, being tied down to a kid she'd never really wanted. His voice was flat, factual. She signed away her parental rights, made it clear she wanted no contact. Haven't heard from her since. I'm sorry, Lily said quietly. Don't be. We're better off without her. Emma doesn't remember her, which is a blessing, but it means I'm all she has, and I'm terrified of screwing that up. He looked at Lily. I'm terrified of screwing everything up, actually. The business, Emma's childhood, whatever this is between us, because my track record with relationships is pretty abysmal. One person leaving doesn't make you bad at relationships. No, but the 3 before her who also left kind of suggests a pattern. Lily blinked. 4 people left you? When you put it like that, it sounds pathetic. It sounds like you had terrible taste in partners. He laughed, surprised. That's probably true. What happened with the others? College girlfriend decided I was too boring. First post-college relationship ended when she cheated with my business partner, which is why I don't have business partners anymore. Second one couldn't handle the hours I worked. Then Emma's mother. He shrugged. After that, I gave up. Focused on work and being a dad. Seemed safer. Lonelier, though. Yeah, but lonely is better than failing again. Lily understood that logic. Had lived by it herself for years. Safer to be alone than to risk being left. I had a boyfriend in college, she heard herself say. Dated for 3 years. I thought we'd get married, have kids, do the whole suburban dream thing. Then he graduated and immediately dumped me for his study partner. Said I was too quiet, too passive, that dating me was like dating a ghost. The old hurt had faded to a dull ache. After that, I dated a few guys, but nothing serious. Everyone eventually got bored and left. I figured I was just not enough. Not interesting enough. Not confident enough, not worth staying for. Tin opas mas satan. That's not true, isn't it? I've spent 30 years being invisible. Those guys last week weren't wrong about me. I am easy to dismiss. You weren't dismissible when you stood up to them. That was desperation, not courage. Courage and desperation look the same from the outside. Ethan shifted closer on the couch. You're not a ghost, Lily. You're not too quiet or too passive. You're thoughtful. You notice things other people miss. You care about doing things right. Those aren't weaknesses. Then why does everyone leave? Because people are idiots who don't recognize value when they see it. The certainty in his voice made her eyes sting. She blinked rapidly, trying to keep tears at bay. Hey, Ethan said softly. I didn't mean to make you cry. I'm not crying. But her voice broke on the last word, and then she was crying, all the stress and fear and hope of the past week spilling out in tears she couldn't control. Ethan pulled her against his chest without asking, and she let him, burying her face in his shirt while he held her and murmured things she couldn't quite hear but understood anyway. You're okay. I've got you. It's all right. When the tears finally slowed, Lily pulled back, embarrassed. Sorry, that was unprofessional. We're not at work. And even if we were, crying isn't unprofessional. It's human. He brushed a tear off her cheek with his thumb, the gesture achingly gentle. You're allowed to feel things, Lily. She looked up at him, at the warmth in his dark eyes, and felt something shift, a decision crystallizing. I don't want to keep things professional, she said. Lily, I know all the reasons why we should. I know it's complicated and risky and probably a terrible idea, but I don't care. She took a breath. For once in my life, I want to choose what I want instead of what's safe. And I want this, you, us, whatever this is. Ethan looked at her like she was something precious and terrifying at the same time. If we do this, there will be rules. Boundaries at work, no special treatment. You earn your advancement based on merit, not on who you're dating. I wouldn't want it any other way. And if it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out, but at least we tried. He cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs tracing her cheekbones. You're sure? I'm terrified, but I'm sure. And then he kissed her, soft and careful, like she might break. Lily kissed him back, her hands fisting in his shirt, all the want and fear and hope tangled together into something that felt like maybe, possibly, the beginning of something real. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ethan rested his forehead against hers. This is a terrible idea, he murmured. Probably. We're going to have to be so careful. I know. And if anyone gives you trouble at work because of this, I'll handle it. He pulled back to look at her. You will, won't you? I stood up to 3 rich assholes who tried to steal from your restaurant. I think I can handle some office gossip. Ethan smiled, that real smile that made him look younger. There's the dragon Emma saw in you. They sat on his couch until nearly midnight, talking about everything and nothing. About his plans for the restaurant group, her ideas for improving operations, Emma's upcoming birthday party, Lily's broken coffee maker. Normal things, important things. The kind of conversation that builds foundation. When Lily finally left, Ethan walked her down to the car, kissed her goodnight in the lobby like a teenager afraid of being caught, watched her drive away with an expression she couldn't quite read. Her phone buzzed before she'd even made it home. Thank you for taking a chance on this. On us. Thank you for seeing me as worth the risk. Always. Lily fell asleep that night feeling like her life had cracked open to let light in. Like maybe the river in her ceiling had finally led somewhere worth going. Thursday morning brought the kind of clarity that only comes after making a decision you can't take back. Lily woke up in her small apartment with sunlight streaming through the window and the memory of Ethan's kiss still warm on her lips. For the first time in weeks, she didn't immediately spiral into anxiety about all the ways things could go wrong. Instead, she lay there thinking about how his hands had felt cupping her face, how certain his voice had been when he'd said, always. She also thought about the meeting scheduled for 10 a.m. where she'd present her scheduling proposal to Ethan in a professional capacity, and how bizarre it was going to be to sit across a desk from someone whose couch she'd cried on less than 12 hours ago. The coffee maker situation remained dire. Lily made a mental note to buy a new one this weekend, then headed to work with gas station coffee that tasted like regret and artificial sweetener. Magnolia Bistro was already humming with morning prep when she arrived. Marcus waved from the kitchen, Sophia was setting up her section, and Derek was in the office doing paperwork with the intense focus of someone avoiding more interesting tasks. "Morning," Lily said, poking her head in. "Patricia wanted me to sit in on the vendor meeting at 9. Is that still happening?" Derek looked up, his expression neutral. "Yeah, conference call with the produce supplier. They've been shorting our orders." "Okay, I'll be ready." She spent the next hour reviewing her notes on inventory management, trying to absorb everything she'd learned about vendor relations and contract negotiations. The meeting itself was enlightening, watching Derek navigate the delicate balance between asserting the restaurant's needs and maintaining a working relationship with a supplier who clearly didn't want to admit fault. When it ended, Derek surprised her by saying, "You picked up on the discrepancy in the tomato counts before I did. Good catch." It wasn't much, but coming from Derek, it felt like progress. At 9:50, Patricia found Lily in the break room. "Ethan's here for your meeting. Conference room upstairs." Lily's stomach flipped. She'd been in the upstairs conference room exactly once during her initial interview 3 years ago. It was where corporate decisions happened, where people who mattered had important conversations. She climbed the stairs with her notebook clutched to her chest, trying to remember how to breathe normally. Ethan was already there, sitting at the head of a table that could seat 12, his laptop open, looking every inch the billionaire CEO. He glanced up when she entered, and for a fraction of a second his professional mask slipped. She saw warmth there, affection, the memory of last night. Then it was gone, replaced by polite attentiveness. "Lily, thanks for putting this together. Have a seat." She sat 3 chairs down from him, close enough to present her materials, far enough to maintain appropriate distance. Patricia joined them a moment later, settling in with her own laptop. "Whenever you're ready," Ethan said. Lily opened her notebook, her hands only slightly shaking. She'd rehearsed this. She knew her material. The fact that she'd kissed this man last night was irrelevant to whether her scheduling system made operational sense. She talked through her proposal, the inefficiencies in the current system, how color coding and strategic buffer times could reduce stress and improve coverage, the potential for cross-training to create more flexibility. She'd prepared examples, run the numbers on potential labor cost savings, even sketched out a sample schedule for a typical week. Ethan listened without interrupting, his expression giving nothing away. Patricia took notes, occasionally asking clarifying questions that made Lily think harder about implementation details. When Lily finished, there was a moment of silence that felt like it lasted forever. Then Ethan said, "This is excellent work. Patricia, what's your assessment? Solid analysis, practical solutions, realistic implementation timeline. I'd recommend a pilot program here at Magnolia, then roll out to other locations if successful." "Agreed." Ethan looked at Lily. "How do you feel about leading the pilot? It's your system. You should be the one to implement it." Lily's brain stuttered. "Lead it? I've only been in training for 4 days. And you've already identified a significant operational improvement. That's exactly what management does, sees problems and fixes them." His tone was professional, but there was something underneath it. Pride, maybe. "You're capable of this. Question is whether you believe you are." It was a challenge, a reminder of their conversation in his office that first day. "Stop underestimating yourself." "I can do it," Lily said, and meant it. "Good. Work with Patricia on the rollout timeline. I want weekly progress reports." Ethan closed his laptop. "Anything else we need to discuss?" "Actually, yes." Lily pulled out Richard Vance's business card, the one that had been burning a hole in her pocket for 2 days. "This man came to the restaurant on Monday, said he was associated with the 3 guys from last week. He offered me a job." The temperature in his room dropped about 10 degrees. Ethan's expression went carefully blank in a way that was somehow more intimidating than outright anger. "What kind of job?" "Assistant manager, immediate position, better pay than the trainee program." Lily set the card on the table. "It felt wrong, like he was trying to poach me to get back at you or something. I wanted you to know." Patricia picked up the card, her mouth thinning. "Richard Vance. He and Ethan have history. We were partners, Ethan said flatly. 10 years ago, before I bought him out and he started his own restaurant group. We're competitors now, and he likes to play dirty. Going after your employees is a new low, even for him, Patricia muttered. Ethan looked at Lily, something complicated in his expression. Why didn't you take it? By your own admission, it's better money and a faster track. Because it wasn't real. He doesn't actually care about my potential. He just wants to take something from you. And because... She hesitated, then pushed forward. Because I'd rather earn my advancement working for someone who actually believes in me than take a shortcut with someone who just sees me as a pawn. The silence that followed felt weighted. Patricia was watching both of them with an expression that suggested she was seeing more than either of them wanted her to see. I'll handle Richard, Ethan said finally. He won't approach you again. And Lily, thank you for telling me. Not everyone would have. I'm not everyone, Lily said quietly. No, you're really not. The meeting ended shortly after. Patricia gathered her materials and left first, but not before giving Lily a look that clearly said, we'll be talking about this later. Lily started to follow, but Ethan's voice stopped her. Wait, she turned. He was still sitting at the conference table, looking tired and conflicted and like he wanted to say 1,000 things he couldn't with the door open and people potentially within earshot. Last night, he said carefully, I don't regret it, but we need to be smart about this. I know. Patricia suspects something. I could see it in her face. She probably suspected before. We're not exactly subtle. No, we're really not. He stood, moved closer, but didn't touch her. If this is going to work, at work, we're boss and employee. Nothing more. Can you handle that? Can you? I've had more practice compartmentalizing. Lucky you. He almost smiled. It won't always be easy. Nothing worth doing is. This time he did smile, brief but real. You're picking up bad habits from me, getting philosophical. Someone has to balance out your terrible pancake skills. Emma told you about those, didn't she? In great detail. They stood there in the conference room, the city visible through the windows behind them, and Lily felt the same pull she'd felt last night. The wanting and the fear and the hope all tangled together. I should get back to work, she said. Yeah, me too. Neither of them moved. Finally, Ethan stepped back, creating distance. Dinner Sunday? My place? Emma's been asking. I'd like that. Good. Now get out of here before I do something unprofessional like kiss you in the conference room. Lily left, her heart racing, and nearly collided with Sophia in the hallway. Whoa! Where's the fire? Sorry, just meeting ran late. Sophia studied her face. You look different. Different how? I don't know. Happy? It's weird on you. Not bad weird, just new. Lily didn't know how to respond to that, so she just smiled and headed downstairs to start her shift. The next few weeks settled into a rhythm that was chaotic and exhausting and somehow perfect. Lily split her time between training with Derek, implementing her scheduling system, and slowly building confidence in her ability to actually manage people. She made mistakes, scheduled someone on a day they'd requested off, initially underestimated how much prep time the kitchen needed once accidentally ordered way too many lemons, but she learned from each one. Patricia became something like a mentor, tough but fair, pushing Lily to think bigger and trust her instincts. Derek thawed slightly, especially after Lily's scheduling system started reducing the chaos he'd been dealing with for years. The other servers were mixed, some supportive, others clearly resentful of her rapid advancement. Lily heard the whispers, saw the looks when Ethan stopped by the restaurant, which he did more frequently now that he was monitoring the pilot program. People were talking, speculating, drawing conclusions that weren't quite right but also weren't entirely wrong. She wanted to care, wanted to be bothered by the implication that she was sleeping her way to success. But every time she felt the sting of it, she remembered standing up to those three men, remembered Ethan's voice saying, "You stood your ground when most people wouldn't have," and the whispers seemed small by comparison. At home, her life was changing too. She bought a new coffee maker, a nice one, the kind she'd always told herself was too expensive, replaced the threadbare towels in her bathroom, started looking at apartments in slightly better neighborhoods, doing math on what she could afford with her new salary. The crack in her ceiling was still there, but she'd stopped staring at it at night, had better things to occupy her thoughts. Sundays became sacred. Dinner at Ethan's apartment with Emma, who'd appointed herself Lily's best friend and took the role very seriously. They'd cook together, Lily teaching Ethan basic techniques while Emma provided running commentary on everything they were doing wrong. Then they'd eat and play games, and Emma would eventually crash on the couch mid-sentence, exhausted from the sheer effort of being 4 years old. Those were the nights Lily learned who Ethan really was beneath the CEO exterior. Learned that he sang off-key in the shower, that he had a weakness for terrible action movies, that he'd wanted to be a chef before life pushed him toward business. Learned that his mother had died when he was 15, that his father had been distant and demanding, that he'd built his restaurant empire partly to prove something to a man who'd never quite believed in him. They were both works in progress, Lily realized, both carrying damage from people who'd failed to see their worth, both learning, slowly, how to trust again. 6 weeks into the management training program, Patricia called Lily into her office. "Your pilot program is exceeding expectations," Patricia said without preamble. "Labor costs are down 7% at this location, server satisfaction is up, and we're seeing better coverage during peak times. Ethan wants to roll it out across all Cole Restaurant Group locations." Lily's mouth fell open. "All of them?" "All 15, which means you'd be transitioning from trainee to full assistant manager, with responsibility for overseeing implementation." Patricia slid a folder across the desk. "New contract, better salary, proper benefits package, the works. Look it over, but I'm authorized to tell you that Ethan considers you essential to the company's operational improvement." Essential. The word echoed in Lily's head. 6 weeks ago, she'd been a nobody waitress, one bad shift away from losing everything. Now she was essential. "There's one more thing," Patricia said, her expression shifting to something more serious. "There's been talk about you and Ethan." Lily's stomach clenched. Here it came, the price of choosing what she wanted. "I'm aware," she said carefully. "I figured. You're not exactly subtle, either of you." Patricia leaned back in her chair. "Normally, this is where I'd give you the speech about fraternization policies and conflict of interest. But honestly, I don't care who Ethan dates as long as it doesn't impact the business. And from what I've seen, you've earned every bit of your advancement on merit." People don't think that. Some people will always look for reasons to tear down women who succeed, especially women who dare to also have personal lives. Patricia's expression hardened. "My job is to evaluate your performance, and your performance is excellent. The rest is noise." "Thank you," Lily said quietly. "Don't thank me. Just keep doing good work." "And for what it's worth?" Patricia almost smiled. "Ethan's been different since you came into his life. Lighter. Emma mentioned you're coming to her birthday party next weekend, and the way she talks about you. That kid doesn't let people in easy. You're good for them." The birthday party. Emma had been talking about it nonstop. A dinosaur-themed extravaganza at a local science museum, with a paleontology presentation and fossil dig simulation and a cake shaped like a T-Rex. "I wouldn't miss it," Lily said. "Good. Now get out of here. You have a scheduling rollout to plan." The party was controlled chaos. 24-year-olds hopped up on sugar and excitement, running through the museum's dinosaur exhibits while exhausted parents tried to keep up. Emma was in her element, holding court in a plastic paleontologist vest and explaining dinosaur facts to anyone who would listen. Lily helped wrangle kids for the fossil dig, took approximately 300 photos on Ethan's phone, and prevented at least 2 minor disasters involving cake and someone's extremely expensive jacket. When the official party ended and most families had collected their sugar-crashed children, a smaller group remained. Ethan's sister Sarah with her husband and 2 kids, a few close family friends, and Lily. Sarah had been watching Lily all afternoon with barely concealed curiosity. She cornered her by the gift table while Ethan was helping Emma open presents. "So you're the famous Lily," Sarah said, not unkindly, but definitely assessing. "I don't know about famous. Emma hasn't stopped talking about you for weeks. Miss Lily taught me to make grilled cheese. Miss Lily knows all about dinosaurs. Miss Lily is Daddy's friend." Sarah's smile was knowing. "My brother doesn't have friends. He has business associates and people he's polite to, so the fact that you've achieved friend status is interesting." Lily didn't know what to say to that. He's been hurt before, Sarah continued, her tone shifting to something more protective. Emma's mother really did a number on him, and the relationships before that weren't much better. He doesn't trust easily. I know. But he trusts you. I can see it in the way he looks at you. Sarah glanced over at her brother, who was currently being buried in wrapping paper by an overexcited Emma. Don't make me regret not giving you the shovel talk, okay? I won't. Hurt him, I mean. Good. Because Emma's already attached, and if you break that kid's heart, I will hunt you down. But Sarah was smiling when she said it. Welcome to the family chaos. Fair warning, we're a lot. The casualness of it, welcome to the family, made Lily's throat tight. She'd never had much family. Her parents were still in Ohio, still caught in the same toxic patterns they'd been trapped in for decades. She called them occasionally out of obligation, but the conversations were stilted and uncomfortable, reminders of all the reasons she'd left. But this, Emma's laughter, Sarah's protective warmth, Ethan's tired smile as he caught Lily's eye across the room, this felt like belonging. Later, after everyone had left and Emma had finally crashed in her bed, Lily and Ethan collapsed on his couch, surrounded by the wreckage of the party. That was exhausting, Ethan said. That was perfect. Emma had a good time. That's what matters. He pulled Lily closer, kissing the top of her head. Thank you for being here. For being part of this. Where else would I be? I don't know. Living a normal life? Dating someone who doesn't come with a 4-year-old in a complicated work situation? Normal is overrated, and I like your complications. He huffed a laugh. You say that now. I'll say it later, too. She tilted her head to look up at him. I signed the new contract today. Assistant manager, official rollout of the scheduling system. I heard. Congratulations. People are still talking about us. I know. Does it bother you? Not as much as it should. Does it bother you? Lily thought about it honestly. Sometimes, when I hear people imply I didn't earn my position, but then I remember that I stood up to 3 grown men who were trying to rob your restaurant, and I implemented a system that's saving thousands of dollars across 15 locations, and I think, let them talk. I know what I'm worth. Ethan pulled back to look at her properly, his expression soft. Look at you, knowing your worth. I had a good teacher. You taught yourself. I just provided the opportunity. They sat there in comfortable silence, Lily's head on Ethan's shoulder, his arm around her waist. Outside, the city hummed with its usual chaos, sirens and traffic, and the thousand small sounds of people living their lives. I was thinking, Ethan said eventually, about the future, where this is going. Lily's heart stuttered. And I don't know. I've never been good at the long-term relationship thing, but with you, I want to try. If you're willing to deal with the mess that comes with me. What mess? You mean the kid who thinks I'm a dragon and the ex-business partner who tries to poach your employees and the demanding job and the terrible pancake skills? All of that, yeah. Ethan Cole, are you asking me to be your girlfriend in the most pessimistic way possible? He actually looked embarrassed. Maybe. Then yes. Obviously, yes. I've been your unofficial girlfriend for weeks. I'm just glad you're finally catching up. He kissed her then, deep and thorough, and Lily felt something settle in her chest. Peace, maybe. Or just the certainty that came with choosing something scary and worth it at the same time. They were still kissing when Emma's voice drifted from her bedroom. Daddy, I had a bad dream. Ethan groaned. Worst timing ever. She's 4. She doesn't understand timing. Coming, Em? He called, then looked at Lily. Stay? Always, she said, and meant it. 3 months later, Lily stood in front of the staff at Magnolia Bistro's morning meeting, no longer a trainee, but a full assistant manager with actual authority. Her scheduling system had been successfully implemented across all Cole Restaurant Group locations. Her ideas on inventory management were being piloted at 2 other restaurants. Patricia had started CCing her on corporate emails about operational improvements. She was no longer invisible. Okay, everyone, she said, and the room actually quieted down to listen. Just a few quick announcements before service. First, great job last night. We had a rush we weren't expecting and everyone handled it beautifully. Second, new vendor meeting next Tuesday. Marcus, I'll need you there. Third, reminder that we're still looking for feedback on the updated break room. Derek's got the suggestion box in the office. She went through the rest of the agenda, schedule changes, upcoming events, a reminder about proper uniform standards, and realized halfway through that she was comfortable doing this, that managing people didn't feel impossible anymore, just challenging in a way she could handle. After the meeting, Sophia caught up with her. "You're really good at this, you know." "At what?" "The management thing, being in charge. You seem different than you did a few months ago." "Different how?" "Confident, like you actually believe you belong here." Lily thought about that. Did she believe she belonged? 6 months ago, she'd been convinced she was playing dress-up in a life too big for her. Now she'd stood up to bullies and earned a promotion and learned how to make decisions that affected dozens of people. She'd fallen in love with a man who saw her value even when she couldn't see it herself. She'd become important to a 4-year-old who thought she was magic. "Yeah," Lily said. "I guess I do." That evening, she let herself into Ethan's apartment with the key he'd given her 2 weeks ago, a small thing that had felt enormous. Emma was already in her dinosaur pajamas, building an elaborate block tower in the living room. "Miss Lily!" She abandoned her construction project to run over. "Guess what happened at school today?" "What happened?" "Tommy said girls can't be paleontologists, but I told him that's stupid because Mary Anning discovered the first ichthyosaur and she was a girl, and also I'm going to be a paleontologist when I grow up, and I'm a girl, so obviously girls can do it." "That's absolutely right," Lily said seriously. "Tommy sounds like he needs to read more books." "That's what I said." "Well, I said he was being dumb, but Daddy said that wasn't nice, so I told him he was being factually incorrect instead." Ethan appeared from the kitchen, laughing. "She's getting your diplomatic skills." "That's a good thing. The world needs more women who can tell people they're wrong without being mean about it." Dinner was easy and chaotic in the way Lily had come to love. Emma talking nonstop about her day, Ethan occasionally interjecting with questions or gentle corrections, Lily just soaking in the warmth of being included, being wanted. After Emma went to bed, Lily and Ethan ended up on the couch as they always did, tangled together in comfortable silence. "I was thinking," Ethan said, "your lease is up next month, right?" "Yeah, I've been looking at new places. My current apartment is fine, but the coffee maker incident made me realize maybe I should upgrade to somewhere with functioning appliances. Or you could move in here." Lily's brain short-circuited. "What?" "Move in, with us. You're here most nights anyway. Emma adores you and I—" He paused, looking uncertain in a way he rarely did. "I like having you here. It feels right. But if it's too fast or you're not ready, I understand." "Yes," Lily interrupted. "Yes?" "Yes, I'll move in. It's probably too fast and definitely breaks every rule about reasonable relationship timelines, but I don't care. I want this." The smile that spread across Ethan's face was worth every risk she'd taken to get here. They told Emma the next morning over breakfast. Her reaction was to shriek with joy and immediately start planning where Lily's dinosaur collection would go. Never mind that Lily didn't have a dinosaur collection. "We'll get you one," Emma said seriously. "Everyone needs dinosaurs." "She's not wrong," Ethan murmured. Moving day was controlled chaos. Lily didn't have much. Furniture from thrift stores, clothes that had seen better days, books and kitchen supplies, and the accumulated debris of 3 years living alone. Sarah showed up with her husband to help, along with Marcus and Sophia, who'd volunteered when they heard. By evening, Lily's belongings were distributed throughout Ethan's apartment. Her clothes in the closet next to his expensive suits, her books mixed with his on the shelves, her terrible thrift store lamp on the nightstand because Emma had decided it was cozy. That night, lying in bed next to Ethan with Emma asleep down the hall, Lily thought about how far she'd come. 6 months ago, she'd been a nobody waitress living in a studio apartment with a broken coffee maker and no hope that anything would ever change. Now she was an assistant manager with a career trajectory and a man who loved her and a little girl who thought she hung the moon. "What are you thinking about?" Ethan asked, his voice soft in the darkness. "How weird life is. How one moment of standing up for yourself can change everything." "You changed everything," he corrected, "by being brave when it would have been easier to back down." "I was terrified." "That's what made it brave." Lily turned to face him. "Do you ever think about those 3 guys? Wonder what would have happened if you hadn't shown up?" "Sometimes. But then I remember that you'd already stood your ground before I got there. You would have figured it out. Maybe." Or maybe I would have let them leave and spent the next 3 years paying off that bill and hating myself for being too scared to fight back. But you didn't. You fought back, and that made all the difference. He was right. That single decision to plant her feet and refuse to move, even though her hands were shaking and her voice was breaking, had been the crack that let light into her life, had led to everything that came after. Thank you, Lily said quietly, for seeing something in me worth believing in. Thank you for finally believing it yourself. They fell asleep tangled together, and Lily's last thought before drifting off was that she'd finally followed that crack in the ceiling to where it led. And it had led here, to a life she'd been too scared to want, with people who made her brave enough to reach for it anyway. 6 months later, on a random Tuesday afternoon, Lily was in the office at Magnolia doing scheduling when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Lily Harper speaking. Ms. Harper, this is Jennifer Chen from the Hospitality Leadership Awards Committee. I'm calling to inform you that you've been nominated for our Rising Star Award, recognizing exceptional new talent in restaurant management. Lily's hand froze on her pen. I'm sorry, what? The award recognizes individuals under 35 who've demonstrated innovative thinking and significant contributions to operational excellence in the hospitality industry. Your scheduling system implementation and its impact across the Cole Restaurant Group caught our committee's attention. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything yet. The nomination is an honor in itself. The ceremony is in 2 months. We'll be sending formal information to your email. Congratulations, Ms. Harper. Lily hung up in a daze. She'd been nominated for an award, an actual industry award for her work. She called Ethan immediately, forgetting about professional boundaries in her excitement. You're not going to believe what just happened, she said when he answered. Try me. She told him about the call, the nomination, the ceremony. There was a long pause on the other end. Ethan? You still there? Yeah, sorry, I'm really proud of you. You know that, right? I'm starting to. Good. Because you earned this. Every bit of it. That night, telling Emma at dinner, the little girl's response was typically Emma. Does this mean you're famous now? Can I tell everyone at school my Lily won an award? I didn't win. I just got nominated. You'll win, Emma said with absolute certainty, because you're the best. Lily looked around the dinner table at Emma's dinosaur-themed placemat and Ethan's proud smile and the life they'd built together, and thought maybe Emma was right. Not about winning the award necessarily, but about being the best version of herself she'd ever been. The ceremony came and went. Lily didn't win. The award went to a chef who'd revolutionized farm-to-table sourcing in the Midwest. But she didn't care. She'd walked into a room full of industry professionals as a nominee, as someone whose work mattered. That was enough. What mattered more was Ethan and Emma in the audience, cheering for her. Sarah and her family showing up in support. Patricia pulling strings to get a table for Magnolia's entire management team. Sophia leaned over during the reception afterward and said, Remember 6 months ago when you were convinced you'd never be anything more than a waitress? Yeah, I was an idiot. You were scared. There's a difference. Sophia clinked her glass against Lily's. Look at you now. Nominated for awards, living with your billionaire boyfriend, being a dinosaur expert for a 4-year-old. You're basically living a romance novel. It's not that dramatic. It absolutely is. You just can't see it because you're living it. Maybe that was true. Maybe her life had become the kind of story she would have thought was too good to be real if someone had told it to her a year ago. Girl meets boy, girl stands up for herself. Girl discovers she's capable of more than she ever imagined. But the real story, Lily thought, wasn't about Ethan, or the promotion, or the award nomination. The real story was about a woman who'd spent 30 years making herself small, and then one day decided to take up space instead. Who'd been terrified but did the scary thing anyway. Who'd learned that courage wasn't the absence of fear, it was acting despite it. That was the story worth telling. 2 years later, Lily Harper stood in the same Magnolia Bistro dining room where she'd once served tables, but this time she was addressing the staff as the restaurant's general manager. Patricia had retired, Lily had been promoted twice more, and she now oversaw operations for 5 Cole Restaurant Group locations. Emma was 6, in first grade, still obsessed with dinosaurs, but now also interested in space and marine biology and whatever other scientific field caught her attention. She'd started calling Lily Mom about 6 months ago, casual, like it was the most natural thing in the world, and Lily had cried for an hour in Ethan's arms that night. Ethan had proposed 3 months ago, a quiet moment on the couch after Emma went to bed. No grand gestures or elaborate plans, just, I want to spend the rest of my life with you, if you'll have me. And a ring he'd been carrying around for weeks waiting for the right moment. They were getting married in the spring. Emma was deeply involved in planning, particularly the part where she got to be flower girl and wear a dress with dinosaurs on it. But right now, in this moment, Lily was just doing her job, managing her team, solving problems, being the kind of leader she'd once been too scared to imagine becoming. After the staff meeting, she walked through the dining room, checking details, and paused by table 12, the table where 3 men had tried to make her feel small and powerless. The table where everything had changed. Someone had put fresh flowers there, a bright burst of color against the white tablecloth. Marcus appeared at her elbow. "You okay, boss?" "Yeah, just remembering. Those assholes? I heard they got banned from half the restaurants in the city after that stunt. Karma's real." "Maybe. Or maybe they just kept being who they always were, and eventually people stopped tolerating it. Either way, good riddance." Marcus headed back to the kitchen, leaving Lily alone with her thoughts. She pulled out her phone, scrolling back through old messages until she found the text she'd sent Ethan that night. The one where she'd accepted his job offer and decided to be brave. "Okay, I'll do it. I accept the position." Such simple words, such a massive decision. Her phone buzzed with a new message. Ethan, texting from whatever meeting he was currently sitting through. "Emma's teacher says she told the whole class about your promotion," with diagrams. "I think we're raising a future CEO, or a future paleontologist who's very organized. Either way, she's proud of you. We both are. Love you too. See you at home." Home. The word still felt new and precious. She had a home now, with people who loved her. Had a career she'd earned through actual work, not luck or connections. Had a life she'd been brave enough to build. The lunch crowd started trickling in. Lily moved through the dining room greeting regulars, checking on new customers, being the kind of manager who noticed details and cared about people. Being the person she'd always had the potential to be, once someone gave her permission to believe in herself. Or maybe she'd given herself that permission. Maybe that was the real lesson, that courage wasn't something someone else could give you. It was something you found inside yourself when the alternative was giving up. That afternoon, after lunch service, Lily sat in her office doing paperwork when Derek knocked on the doorframe. He'd moved to a different Cole Restaurant Group location last year, but still stopped by occasionally. "Got a minute?" he asked. "Sure, what's up?" He sat down, looking uncomfortable. "I wanted to apologize for not having your back that day with those guys. I should have intervened, should have supported you instead of hiding in the office." It had been 2 years. Lily had long since stopped thinking about Derek's failure to act, but apparently he hadn't. "It's okay," she said. "Really, it's not. I was